works so well. And someone like Patrice, because I've talked about it before, how people now, because of everything going on in the world today with social media and political correctness and hashtags, and like they're like, oh, Patrice, well, I can't believe you, Anthony. Patrice would be yelling at you, or Patrice would say this. I'm like, are you even trying to say you would know what Patrice would say in a certain situation? His whole genius was that you never knew what the fuck that guy was going to say. Yeah, I'd be in discussions with him about anything, race or entertainment, whatever the fuck it is, relationships. And I was always trying to get him, and he's always trying to get me. So I'd be looking 2 moves ahead and go like, oh, I so got him with this. When he's done with this little sentence, I can nail him with something else. And he fucking makes a turn, and now I'm just stuck and have no answer to it. And I'm like, goddamn son of a bitch, he won again. So it was anyone that professes to know what Patrice would think about what's going on in 2018 doesn't really know Patrice. Yeah, the guy was amazing.
There's a video that I listened to the other day. I listen to old Opie and Anthony clips all the time. It's one of my favorite things to do. And I'll be very honest. I listen to Rogan clips daily. I see him on Instagram. I'll watch his interviews. I'll see his thoughts about things. I love Joe as a friend. I love his show.
He's amazing.
But I listened to a video of you and Patrice, and Patrice was like, man, I just don't like Asian people. And he's like, I don't know, something wrong with them. And you hear that in today's ears, and you're just like, what the fuck? And then everyone's laughing because it was said back then, but it's still a fucked up thing to say.
Right. Yeah.
And then Patrice is like, yeah, I just think, they're just bad people. And all of you guys are, so Patrice always took when did you know you had chemistry with Patrice?
At first, when he first started coming on the show, and I think it was Voss that kind of introduced him to us. Jimmy knew him.
Patrice is an acquired taste.
But yeah, that's another thing.
Not as a comic, but as a person.
As a person. Oh, yeah. Because we would sit there. When he first was brought in, I was just plain intimidated. I mean, it's a giant black dude comes in and just owns the room. You're sitting there kind of like, all right, what do I do? If there was a morning and you saw that Patrice was going to be a guest, you just knew it's time to wake up. You're not going to be able to just ease into your show with the first hour. It's like balls out now, because he'd come in, wah, motherfucker, with the screaming and yelling, and you'd have to fight to get a word in. So at first it was intimidating, but I realized, like, this isn't just another loud guy. Like, he's smart as fuck. He's got a weird take on everything, and it's not the normal take. You'd think, oh, here he is, big black dude. He must think this, and this.
Yeah.
And he just go off the board. And entertainment things, like he knew. He goes, I know white movies. And I'm like, what do you mean? He goes, white movies. I watch white movies. I know them all. And we would talk about just hilarious movies like Die Hard and things like that. And he would break them down, and Twister and Face Off and all these dumb movies.
Ludacris wanting to be called Chris or whatever his name is, and he would put he'd whittle down a theory, almost like a conspiracy theory.
Yep.
He had the most genius mind. So when did you guys know? Like, when was the time when you were like, oh, this guy? Because arguably, you and Patrice had the best chemistry on that show.
Yeah. Vaughn, his ex girl there, she's told me numerous times, she goes, you are white Patrice. She's like, I don't know anyone else that I could talk to and get this Patrice vibe from. And I think it was pretty quick after he came on that first time and we got the intimidation thing out of the way, because we just had the same kind of interest. We liked going just a few layers deeper into stuff than people normally would, and breaking down things on that level. When he came out with that bit about like only 4 states in the United States and there were sections, the Northwest, and he called them, by different names. It was brilliant. And I've heard other people talk about that concept, but the way he put it was just so brilliant. And to sit there and have a conversation about it, especially with him, especially about things like race, where you would just think, oh, it's a black dude and a white dude kind of duking it out about race. But again, we take it to other levels and never be insulted or offended by what the other one was saying. And to me, that was just an amazing thing. We would walk to the parking garage after the shows and just have really great conversations going down the sidewalk about what we talked about on the show or some brand new topic. And then just like, you know, the sheepdog and the wolf that would punch out in Bugs Bunny cartoons, we'd punch out, say, take it easy, and, you know, see you next time. So one of the most unique guys I've ever known, and one of the coolest relationships I had.
When you got in trouble and got kicked off XM, how many times did you think, if Patrice was just here?
Yeah.
I think that's something that we
guys. This is Keith on
yeah.
the mic. You can't see him on camera. I apologize, but he's right here.
It's something that we talked about a few times, and knowing the way he handled when he got interviewed about Imus and everything.
Oh, yeah.
I think that
hilarious.
That was the most genius interview.
On Fox News, he talked about the donkey punch and the angry pirate, and all those sex things on Fox News. They were horrified, and it was hilarious.
But it's the best video because it's like, I focus on funny. You focus on nappy head hose.
He's like, you don't know funny.
You don't know
the
funny.
feminist. He's like, you don't know what funny is. I know funny.
Yeah.
She's like, well, that's not funny in anything. No, see, you don't know. I know funny. And it was perfect. It was,
and that cameraman just breaks up.
Just starts cracking up.
See, angry pirates when you come in their eye and then kick them in the shin. And you're, and he's like, oh, there you go. Oh, outraged. I'm outraged. His videos were the best. You were saying, Keith?
And I think he would have taken that opportunity, and Anthony would have taken that opportunity to do something together. And I think that would have been
100%, and that would have gone
the right
fucking time. That would have broken the
internet.
Yeah.
Because we would do those things. You know, we had that bit where we tried to hail a cab. And I was wearing Nazi regalia.
That's when I thought you guys connected.
It was just amazing. Yeah.
So I apologize for interrupting you.
No, all good. I was wearing Nazi regalia because it's hard for a black dude to get a cab in New York City.
Yeah.
And for years it was obvious because a black guy would be hailing a cab. The cab would pass right by him and go to a white dude at the corner. So we wanted to see who would get a cab first, and we blatantly used the N-word versus Nazi.
Yeah.
And that was the name of the bit. And I would stand there with a Nazi helmet on, and I was hailing a cab by doing a Sieg Heil for the cab. And Patrice was upstream of the cab, so he got first dibs. Cab passed right by him, stops for me. And he's like, motherfucker, you pick up a Nazi, motherfucker.
Yeah.
And it was so goddamn funny. And it went back and forth. The cab picked him up a couple of times. And the score was finally, I got more cabs than he did. And it was such a great, funny way to kind of, you know, do a little social commentary and have some fun with it and be outrageous, because that was our job too. And somebody like Patrice just knew exactly what to do with that bit.
It was such a it was so great when all of a sudden, like, people would just show up. Like, you'd be like, oh, Colin just walked in.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden you're like, when you guys were watching Tough Crowd when you were off the air, were you kind of like, that's our fucking show?
No, I thought it was great, and I would have loved to have been part of it, but we were persona non grata, not allowed on the air, things like that. But I watched it, and it was like a concentrated version of one part of our show. You got a bunch of comics, they're busting each other's balls and talking about the news. So that was cool, but I never thought it was blatantly our show. Like I said, I just wanted to be part of it. And it was a good kind of holdover. We always goofed on Jimmy about how he just jumped onto Colin's coattails after ours were pulled out from under him like a cockroach. He'll always live. So, no, I thought it was brilliant. But yeah, when comics would just show up, it was one of those great moments, especially someone like Colin or Attell or someone would just show up, and you're like, dude, this is gold right here. Now we're going to be and it was funny because Voss would be on and people just ragging Voss. And then Colin busts in the door. Stupid. What are you doing? Shut up. Just knock it off. And you're laughing your ass out because you know these two are just going to break each other's balls for the next hour or so. So it was a great part of the show. And something that you didn't see a lot. Like, we gave a lot of latitude to our, especially our comedian guests, to just come in and fucking be themselves.
Dice.
Yeah. Oh,
dude,
my
do you
God.
remember when Dice came in with Judd Apatow?
Oh yeah.
And Judd Apatow and Dice asked him to move. He didn't even. Now.
I don't remember that.
Judd Apatow's in studio, and he's on the center mic or the guest mic.
Right.
And Dice comes in. I think Judd Apatow's movie just went huge, and Dice goes, "Hey, over there now. This is my mic. You over there. Hey." And you guys are like, "Mike Dice, this is Judd." And he's like, "Yeah. Hey, he's on that mic. Hey, it's the Dice." And Judd was such a fan of Dice that he was like, he was just laughing hysterically. I could never tell if Dice was doing a joke, in on the joke, or not joking at all.
That's a good way to put it, because we never knew. I still don't know when I see Dice if it's a joke, or I think he's more Andrew Clay now than he was Dice. And he's hilarious now. He actually figured it out. Like to try to be the cool Dice of the 80s now isn't the way to go. People look and go, look, you're older, you're a dad, you're there. So he is doing older Dice, and it's hilarious. He talks about family and, his aches and pains and shit. And it's like, all right, he's not trying to be the cool guy. He's trying to be the former cool guy that's now old and falling apart. And it works for him. It's hilarious. But back then, you didn't know. You're like, he would sit down and be like, so this is what you're doing? What am I supposed to do? Talk? And you're like, he's just busting our chops, or does he really not know what to do? Is he mocking us? Like, we didn't know.
Like the Jay Moore and Dice beef that happened.
Yeah.
I thought it was a joke.
I did too.
I still don't
know.
Until
the police were called.
So that was real?
Threats. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that was legit. I was still in the police department at the time. So when I heard that that Jay and his wife had called the police and a report was taken, I had to go over to that precinct and get a copy of the report just to see it. And it was hysterical. I mean, it was goofy, but written in the perp's description, it was like last name Clay, first name Andrew, and then it said middle name Dice on the police report. Like, it didn't even have his real name on it or anything. It was just such a goof. But it was. I mean, nothing was going to go anywhere with it, but it was just the police did go, and an actual police report was generated, so it was funny.
You always wondered, like, what Dice was doing, if it was real, if it was a work. I think 90% of what he did was a work. But he took us out shopping once, and it was hilarious. He thought he was on the streets of Bangladesh. He's trying to bargain with somebody at a Fifth Avenue clothing store. You can't bargain someone down. Well, these sweatshirts, give me 2 for the price of 1. And it's like, no, we can't do that, sir. Come on, for a goof. Like, what are you talking about? And we'd be laughing our balls off, but he was deadly serious. He wanted to get some kind of discount from the guy. So, we went to his steak place once for dinner, and he asked for his steak to be butterflied. He wanted his baked potato rolled on the grill so the skin was crispy. And so he gets the dinner, and we all get it. Now everybody's fine. And he goes, excuse me. The waiter comes over. He goes, do you remember when I told you about the potato? Do you remember? I told you. Guys go, sir, what can we do? We'll take the potato back. No. I want to know if you remember. And I'm just sitting there going, well, whatever food's in front of you, eat that, because they're going to spit on whatever else they send on the fucking table. But he just couldn't stop. I think he just loves performing in front of people. So if he can make an uncomfortable situation, he's going to do it.
He was gold. When he come on, I just get so...
Oh, yeah.
Dude, one of my best compliments I've ever gotten, I guess Eleanor was touring with them, and my video went up, and he walks out of the back in the video, and he goes, hey, he's got no shirt on? He's got no shirt on. Like, and he starts laughing. He's got no shirt on. He's got no shirt on. And then he heard the machine story. He goes, hey, this guy's great. He should come out in a robe with slippers. I was like, because I'd heard him so many times with you guys and been just in stitches. But I could never tell if it was like...
Yeah. We the first time we met him was out here in California. we were me and Opie were doing radio in Boston for like a week. And they're like, well, you're going out to LA. There's something going on at the Comedy Store. You're going to be broadcasting live, and then over at the Auto Museums, and you're going to be broadcasting live from there. So we go over there, and they bring celebrities around and whatnot, and Dice was one of the celebrities. And I just started doing an impersonation of him when he was coming over, and me and him got into an argument with me doing Dice, and he's like, I'm not going to argue with me over here. And the cameras were turned around, all the mics were on, like it was a moment that doesn't usually happen at one of those junkets.
Yeah.
And Dice loved it. He fucking loved it. So we didn't really hear from him much in Boston, but when we got to New York, Club Soda Kenny, who was working with Dice.
By the way, who has the most interesting career of anyone.
Yeah, it's insane.
All of a sudden, I'll be somewhere and he'll just show up.
Yeah.
Who are you with? Hello, Bert. I'm with Bill.
Yeah.
Good to see you.
Yeah, I'm guarding them.
I'm guarding them.
Yeah, he was with Dice, and he goes, Dice, there's some guy does an impression of you that you got to hear. So I used to do the Dice impression as if he worked sweeping up around WNEW.
Yeah.
And people actually called and goes, I can't believe Dice is doing that. Like they thought it was really Dice. Oh. Just sweeping floors. I was like, I'm playing the garden, the Olive Garden. Down on... And people just laughed their balls off. So he finally called in and then came in. Kenny had him come in. And ever since then, we've had a relationship with Dice. He did my first show as Compound Media,
outside
Anthony
by your
Cumia show. Yeah, out by the pool. And then later that night, we sang karaoke.
Subscriber.
Yeah.
It's $54 for the year, I think.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
And then he sang karaoke.
When that happened, I was like, of course I subscribed. I subscribed for the fucking year. And then I was like, honey, I just subscribed to Anthony's podcast for the year. And she goes, wait, why don't you just... Yeah, of course. Why wouldn't you? And then she didn't know it was a paywall. And I was like, she thinks I just hit subscribe.
Oh, subscribe,
subscribe. So you have a new book out that I've mentioned in the thing. I want to talk about it. Permanently
suspended.
Suspended.
Yeah.
And I started reading it. And in the middle of reading it, I heard Mark WTF, Mark Maron say, it's a horrible idea to read someone's book before you interview them because you'll just lead them into questions.
Oh, interesting.
And I was like, I already know everything about there is to know about this guy. I've been listening to him for fucking 10 years. So I stopped reading your book, but I wanted to, I don't know if things are covered in your book, but I wanted to ask you some questions that, number one, did you have any financial involvement in Pal Chat? Pal Talk.
Oh, Pal Talk? No. No,
fuck.
we tried to get some kind of a deal going when we first started Compound. But when I was on XM, which is where we really used a lot of Pal Talk, no, we never had any. Somebody introduced me to it, and I loaded it up on the computer, and it was the excuse was, well, there are people that could just give me instant feedback. If I'm thinking of something, a movie, and I don't remember the actor, they pop it up immediately.
Yeah.
But the truth of it was, all I was doing is looking at naked girls laying in bed watching and listening to the show. Because
really?
It was a video conferencing thing. So you could have like 6 windows open, about 3-inch by 3-inch windows open at a time. And it was usually girls listening to the show in bed in various states of undress. And they would flash tits and pussy and everything. And it was like, I'd be sitting there watching and doing the show. And that was pretty much what Pal Talk was all about. It was just looking at naked girls.
I hear you talk about Pal Talk, and I was like, they have to have money invested in this. They have to have money invested in this. You guys are like, Pal Talk's amazing, guys. You guys need help on Pal Talk.
Yeah, it was, it was just something we used. And we used it to get the Anthony Weiner dick pic from Andrew Breitbart.
Yeah.
That was what
you guys had Andrew Breitbart on early, right?
Yeah, he was on right
before he died.
Yeah. It was right when the Anthony Weiner thing came out, and he had the picture of his dick, and he gave it to us to look at on his phone, and I held it in front of the camera, my Pal Talk camera that was on me.
Yeah.
And people snapped pictures of it, and I handed it to Opie, and they handed it back. And it just went out. Like, that was us exposing the thing. And Andrew was pissed. I felt bad because he was like, I was using that to get information on something else. You fucked my whole deal up. And and shit. And then he died after that, so I kind of felt bad about it. But it got us in the story, and as far as radio goes, that's the most important thing.
When did you get involved with technology?
I've always been just in love with tech, and especially video, audio, shit like that. So when I was on XM, I wanted to have a video presence, something. So I built a studio in my basement. Trial and error.
Is that your first step into like were you interested in the mics? Were you interested in XLR cables? Were you because I remember the first time I saw Compound live from the Compound, I was like, what the fuck? You can do this?
Yeah, I know. That's what everyone's like. Wait a minute, I could just do this.
but from what I know of you as a kid, your parents separated. By the way, this is that I read in the book, and then I was like, I know all this. I know all this. I know everything about shooting guns. I know everything. And so I was like, I got to stop because I'm just going to go. So tell me about the girl that you hooked up with that was a little older. But so when did you start? Because I've had people on here like Tom Green said he was like what's interesting about me is that Ontario is like a real big tech area, and so I was into tech way before, and that's what got me into the Tom Green show. But you were the first one of our generation who was like, oh, I can stream. All of us had heard of podcasts. Yeah, but you were like, oh, I can do all this myself.
Yeah. I even as a kid though, I loved that shit. I loved the first camcorders that ever came out. I knew I had to get one and start making videos with me and my friends. Adam Ferrara is one of my buddies. We would make videos of stoned pot cooking shows. We would just do bits and sketches and stuff. So I always loved the medium. And then being able to have the kind of equipment, because I was out for 2 years from WNEW when we got fired. They paid us for 2 years off of one of the most lucrative contracts we ever signed. So I had a shitload of money coming in. And when we got to XM and I wanted to build this studio, I had unlimited resources. So I would go to B&H Photo in Manhattan and just buy stuff. And if it worked, it worked. If it didn't, it gets thrown to the side and I buy something else. And it was a lot of trial and error and plug and play. And but after a while, I had this studio completely figured out. And I wanted it to be HD video. I wanted to have lower thirds. I wanted to be able to pop picture-in-picture video. I wanted it to look as professional as a newscast, but with a drunk rambling as the anchor man. Yeah. That to me was the coolest thing I could do. And that's exactly what I wound up doing. And I'd pop on at all hours, drunk karaoke.
Middle of the
night, 3 a.m. I'd be like, Pope, fire it up. Hey, motherfuckers, I'm going to sing a few songs, and then we're going to talk about this in the news. And it was great. It was such a weird little thing to have available to me. XM got pissed about it. They didn't like that they weren't getting exclusivity. I'm like, I'm in my basement. Yeah. Leave me the fuck alone. It's nothing like the O&A show. It's
just creating material for the show.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times people would call in and be like, I remember when Ralphie called in and he's like, yo, did you talk shit about me yesterday?
Yeah, on the Compound podcast that I did.
That was really interesting.
Talking shit about Ralphie May.
How did that go down? I remember, by the way, I think I watched the mashup video.
Yeah.
But someone you had Pal Talk on the show, on the Compound Media, live from the Compound.
No, I don't think I had Pal Talk on that, did I?
Someone called in maybe?
Yeah, I think someone called in.
And was like, do you love Ralphie May? And you were like, no.
I was like, nah, I'm going to say it here. Like, and again, it was, it's a show. But I was just, I was like, oh, God, he's so annoying. And I had a few in me, of course. And I'm like, he's just so loud. And we couldn't get a point across. You'd make a point. He'd just start screaming. I'm like, fuck him. Fuck Ralphie May. And people just ran with it. Like, oh, boy, Ralphie, he's pissed at you. And yeah, of course. And then it gets out of hand. And
then his call-in was so uncomfortable.
Yes, it was very uncomfortable.
It was the most uncomfortable bit of radio I've ever listened to in my life. It was
very uncomfortable. But again, people seem to love uncomfortable. That's
Dude, to this day, I've never listened to anything.
Yeah, that was bad.
And then all I thought was, all I thought, and this is my brain. I can't help it. My brain works this way, but I was like, dude, Live from the Compound's about to blow the fuck up. Because I'm listening to Opie and Anthony going, I'm definitely seeing what he's talking about tonight.
Yeah. It was, they wanted me to put the kibosh on it. And during contract negotiation, I really had to kind of lay off of it. They were pissed. But then we did a contract. I was able to still use it. And thank God I had it, because once I got the boot, it was that much easier. If I had to build a studio and then figure out the logistics with Keith to get it out to the people, because it's a different animal from when I was just in my basement. It wasn't a giant audience tuning in. Like, it was wee hours of the morning. People watched it afterwards a lot of times, the next day. But then when we started doing this, we really needed a reliable delivery system that wasn't going to crash if too many people got on. And we got a hard education on that, because we went through so many pain in the ass things that didn't work and incompetent people. And it's one of those things that you really don't take into consideration. I just figure, I get in front of a mic and I talk, and that's all I need to know. But this business is two-sided. There's the content, the material, the people, the funny guys, whatever, and then the technical end of it, which is a completely different business, but both of those are dependent on the other. And I don't want to fucking deal with the tech part of it. I love tech. I don't like tech deals. I don't like dealing with a tech company. The phone call saying this needs to be done, or how much is bandwidth this month, or I fucking don't need that. I just want to get in front of a mic and do the show. But that's kind of the position we ended up in. And to this day, we still have issues with technology that we get pissed at. But for the most part, it's running very smoothly. And and I love it. I just love the idea that this is something that's completely ours, 100% open to say and do anything we want on it. So
I want to talk about the exits at all three different stations. I'm dying to talk about contracts, meaning I don't need to know specifics. I would love to know specifics. I would love to know how much money you made from SiriusXM. But I want to talk about contracts, because I want and the growth of that as that happens. But since we're here, I'm dying to talk about the tech side of the business of the podcast you have, because I think there's a lot of people that are. I'm a podcast geek. I love this shit, and I didn't enjoy the tech. I didn't enjoy editing them myself. I didn't enjoy posting them. And then I brought Halston in, and I started to really enjoy it again. And I started to enjoy my podcast.
You need somebody that can do that stuff.
Now we're looking at buying a property and building what Joe has on a very, very small scale. Very small scale. But making it a fun house, like a fun place to go,
right?
And make it like what you guys have. Every time I walk in, you're like, Bert, cold beer? And I'm like, oh, I'm good. Like, but so what was that like when you first started? Your podcast now, like, where was the? I want to talk about the TriCaster. I want to talk about the equipment.
Yeah.
I want to talk about everything. Like, and the choice to go behind a paywall, the choice not to. One of the most frustrating things about your podcast is it'll go through the grapevine. Like, holy shit, did you hear what happened on? And you're like, what? And you're like, yeah. And then you're online. You're like, motherfucker. And then you're like, God damn it, I got to go fucking back into the son of a bitch. And it's a choice, but through the grapevine with comics, it's been very beneficial to be behind a paywall. It's been extremely. It sounds like a very, and I'm talking about like us podcasters have talked about paywalls, and they're like, it worked for Anthony, it won't work for all of us.
Yeah, it's a model that needs a very specific product to work. I had just gotten fired off a very popular radio show. Had a very big following. I knew if we got up and running fast enough, we could get a lot of those people to subscribe. Sure, we could have gone the route with sponsors alone, and maybe there's a couple of other ideas for models with placement of clicks and what have you. But if we wanted to be 100% self-sufficient and not worry about people pulling the plug on us for content, we had to go with the paywall.
It's interesting because I think all of us started from a very different angle of like, I'm just doing it for free.
Yeah.
No one's listening.
Right,
like,
right.
I remember my first week I had 25,000 subscribers. And I was like, I remember calling Tommy Segura and I was like, dude, 25,000 subscribers. He goes, yeah. It's going to break your heart when I tell you what you got to do to get advertising.
Yeah.
I was like, really? And he goes, just keep doing it, man. And I don't even know what I did until I got advertisers. And even still, I think it is in the back of your head about having a boss, about having someone who will pull the plug on an ad because Jay fucking Okerson says pubic hairs.
Yeah. It's one of those deals where, I was pretty much damaged goods at that point. And the idea...
So, yeah, like, I wonder if you knew how big that was. Because I know
how big it was personally. In my life.
I was in Clearwater Beach, and people were talking about you at the bar.
Jesus.
And my dad said, and by the way, I apologize for this. My dad goes, "Do you know this fucking idiot?" I go, "Yeah, actually, I'm a huge fan of his."
I've heard that before.
And my dad goes, "You serious?" I go, "Yeah." I go, "Dad," and my dad and I got into a conversation about race and socioeconomic backgrounds and ways people are brought. It was a really great conversation I had with my dad, all because of you on TV and people arguing about you and people supporting you. Oh, I know, because it's all cowhead people down there. So people were supporting you, and my dad's very socially, very, 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 very liberal. Grew up in the 60s, and but I was like, I wonder if, like, did you just hop off your phone?
Oh, at that point, no. I doubled down, tripled down, quadrupled down on there, and then actually it was Sean Hannity that got in touch with me. He goes, "Anthony, get the fuck off social media. Yeah. What are you doing? Just stop." And it was like, yeah, okay, better fucking like leave that alone for a while. It was weird. I didn't know how big it was at the time. Like I said, I was just taking it very personally, and I was mostly thinking, what the fuck am I going to do now? Like, I could have just literally retired, just stopped doing anything and moved somewhere with the woods around me and write a manifesto or something. But I didn't want to. I love doing this, so I wanted to keep going. And Keith's like, "You got a studio right there in the basement. What are you doing? Let's get it up and running." And I was like, "Yeah, that's a good idea. If we get it running in a month, we could probably snag a bunch of people that are fans of the show, get them to subscribe, and put out a show from the basement." And it's exactly what we did. We were up and running in a month. And then we just started getting other people that kind of liked the idea of this uncensored platform. Gavin McInnes was one who was just
dying to talk to you about Gavin.
Hilarious.
Gavin, can I tell you how much trouble I've gotten in with being a fan of Gavin McInnes?
I know, me too.
Because and by the way, and I know that as soon as I just said that, people are losing their shit.
Yeah.
Like, I wasn't introduced to him the way you guys, everyone listening is.
Right.
Everyone listening to him only hears about Gavin McInnes, Proud Boys, Manhattan
Hitler.
Fight. Yeah, he's Hitler.
He's Hitler.
Dude, I knew this guy back from the JRE, early JRE days, and then on Compound Media. Like, and I was like, and I got to be dead honest with you, man. And then I'd run into Proud Boys.
Yep.
And they'd go, "Oh, dude, love you on JRE. Dude, I love when you were on Anthony's show." Like, it was just podcast fans.
Right. Yeah.
It was just podcast fans. That's all they were.
Yeah.
It was a new manifestation of the Pests or Death Squad. It was just a group of guys. And they all had good haircuts.
Yeah, that haircut is clean, man.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden this started happening, and of course Gavin would say fucked up shit every now and then.
Of course, yes.
But so did Milo, so did Ben, so did fucking Jordan, so did all these people, and it was almost. It's like, I'm not to say, and so did you, and so did I. By the way, so did I. I definitely am guilty of saying fucked up shit. But then you've witnessed his transformation into
crazy.
So when you met Gavin, what was that introduction like?
That introduction was I met him on Red Eye on Fox News as a guest on Red Eye, And I just saw him as this weird, funny dude.
Almost a troll.
Right. Almost a troll. Very eclectic, weird guy. If you put in the Godfather of hipster, he comes up. He's the guy.
Yeah.
Like, he's the guy. So I just thought, this is cool. And his history with Vice. Vice magazine.
Love Shane Smith. Love Shane Smith. To this day, I'm a ride or die motherfucker with Shane Smith because we look alike. And so people would always come up and go, bro, can I buy you a beer? And I thought they would be talking to me.
Oh, shit.
And they go, dude, I love you on Rogan. I go, oh, thank you.
Oh, yeah, because that works too.
And then they'd be like, dude, your story about the Russian train, which Shane has a similar story.
Oh, shit.
It was posted on fucking Vice. And I was like, yeah. And it was in the Atlanta airport. And the guy's like, so how did you come up with that company? Like, how did you start Vice? And
you're like,
and
what?
then immediately I was like, he thinks I'm Shane Smith.
Oh, shit.
I was like, well, I was growing up in Canada. And so in a weird way, it's like Shane and Gavin were these two just outliers.
Yeah.
Who were these guys who created content that were big on podcasts and like alternative media, and that was our introduction to them.
Yeah.
It was not. I mean, I don't hate to defend someone that like Gavin because I have to tell you my perspective, and my perspective was very different than what people meet him as. But
yeah,
he just was a fucking goofy guy that dressed as Michael Douglas on Joe's podcast, and you're like, what the fuck?
Yeah, he's a goofy guy. I've gotten to know him and his family. Like,
so wait, go back to when you guys your introduction. I apologize.
Oh yeah,
I interrupt so bad.
Please, this is awesome. Yeah, it was Fox News, and I started reading some of his articles, and through Twitter when we were both allowed on Twitter, I started DMing him about things, and it was kind of when we started the Compound Media thing, and he wanted a show. He just wanted to, do his show on our platform. And it was while I was still doing it out of my house. So we were like, yeah, he would come out to Roslyn, Long Island, and come into my house, do the show, and then come upstairs. And I'd just be sitting there watching television, and he'd sit down and, hey, what's up? How you doing? And we would have these conversations. And he's just a...
By the way, I have to preface, when you say we'd have these conversations, I don't want people to take that out of context.
Oh, see?
Yeah, see, that's what's so fucked up about where we are today, is you just bullshit.
Right. We would just bullshit about anything.
It wasn't like, here's the problem with the Jews.
No. We'd have conversations about anything and everything. It's just... Yeah, we'd have the conversations.
Yeah.
No, you're right. People would say that. But it just... The more you get to know the guy, the more you realize he's brilliant. He's so out there, and his sense of humor is really odd. But it's nonetheless a sense of humor. And a lot of what he does is supposed to be taken with a grain of salt as parody and satire and sarcasm, and not at face value. Now, the news don't know anything about that. They are, you said it, you meant it this way, that's it, period.
Yeah.
Now, the whole Proud Boys thing, it started as a joke. That thing started 100% joke. It was a guy that we had working at the studio, this guy Ben Ratner, Rat we called him. And Rat's tends to be an effeminate kind of a guy, a Jewish kid. He never has stories of chicks or going out on dates and anything. So, of course, Gavin starts getting on him and maybe making speculations about his sexuality and whatnot. And he started goofing on him about being proud of your boy, like a dad being proud of your boy. And the Proud of Your Boy was a song from a Broadway musical. So we would play it and then say, we got to get you laid, and be one of the Proud Boys, be a member of the Proud Boys. In order to get in, you have to name 5 breakfast cereals while people beat you up. The whole thing was a joke, a complete goof. Now there's chapters around the world that are being labeled white nationalists, Nazis, racist nationalists. And it's to me, looking from the inside out at how society's reacting to it, I'm like, do you understand this is a joke? The whole thing's a goof. Yeah. And it's Gavin, again, pulling these strings, the troll that he is, and getting so much flack for it because now he's being presented, and there's no turning back. Like, there's no explaining it to anybody.
It's really interesting to see now, because I have to tap out on one once, because I remember hearing Proud Boy a long time ago, and going like, oh, that's so silly.
Yeah.
Like, it's so silly.
Yeah.
And not thinking it, and then hearing it and going, oh, neo-Nazis. And then I think we watched video of Proud Boys versus Antifa.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to figure out what Proud Boys are, and they're all guys of color. And I'm like, okay, they're not neo-Nazis. And then I went on a really great guy. I wish I could remember the guy's name. He's very liberal, but he kind of called me out on me reacting to these fight videos because I think it's a viral video now. But this one guy throws a baton at a Proud Boy and he catches it and knocks the guy out clean.
Yeah.
Clean. And I'm sure I don't know what the fuck I said. I'm sure I was drunk or high. But regardless, he was like, dude, do you support the Proud Boys? And I was like, no, I don't know what you're talking about. And he was like, they're Nazis. And I was like, well, they're people of color. He goes, you can't say that. And we got into a little bit of an argument about it. And I was like, and then I was like, hold on. And so I did a little research and I was like, okay, I guess things are a little out of control now. It seems like whatever views I had of Gavin and the Proud Boys are now out of context. And then, and then I guess Gavin and that's where I tap out because I don't. As soon as that happened, I just went, I'm done. I'm not going to mention him again. I'm not going to talk about it again.
Right.
But I knowing that you know Gavin, I was like, what? So what? Like, I really don't know.
I don't know how it got
escalate?
to the point. I have no idea. It's just something I think the right time, the right place, it caught on. Like, I don't support the Proud Boys. I've known Gavin for years. I think he's fantastic. I've never been to an event. I've never hung out with the Proud Boys. So I don't support them. I don't know what they even do, but I do support Gavin as a person. Like, I don't like the idea that he's being chased out of his house. Like, his neighbors are like, I'm not having a Nazi. His wife is American Indian. He's got beautiful kids that just want to go to school and play baseball. And they're being terrorized by certain people in the neighborhood and whatnot. And I know Gavin. He's just a nice guy. Like you said, he's goofy. He does things that are, could be considered outrageous. But that's the entertainer part of Gavin, as was this invention of the Proud Boys. A goof, a joke, a documented joke. If you want to look and watch some of those old programs, you could see exactly how it progressed into out of control what it is now. And along the way, Gavin has done nothing but disavow Nazis, nationalism. He told Proud Boys, don't go to Charlottesville, don't go to Portland.
It's crazy that I don't know anything about this, so it's fucked up for me to say anything. But like, it sounds like he's their unappointed leader. Yeah,
because it started with him, and then it mutated into this other thing. But he's still just the goofy guy that was trying to get a Jewish kid laid in the studio and making a joke about it. So it's put him in a really weird position where no matter how much he disavows things and says it's not this and I'm not this, once that's out of the box, we've seen it happen. I've seen it personally to myself. There's no getting it back in. They don't want you to. They don't want to hear your explanation. People love to be outraged. And when they think they know something and somebody and they're outraged by it, they don't want you to fix it.
Outrage feels so good.
People love outrage.
I love it.
I love it. Don't you love being mad?
I love not even like just the feeling of getting in the shower and then fighting with people online that aren't real and going like the Dwight Howard thing.
Yeah.
I've been fighting with people and I have a pretty educated view of why I would fight with people about it. Cause I'm a big fan of hip hop. I'm liberal, but like big liberal because I'm hardcore LGBTQ rights. Like I'm like, and I'm also anti-shaming. So like all the things that I'm interested in are right in the same pocket. And I have a fucking educated opinion on it. I'll never share it because I know that once you throw that hat in the ring, you are fucked.
Yeah.
Once you say one thing, you are fucked. So I was just like, whatever. But I get in the shower and I'll fucking argue with people. I got into a fight with Amy Schumer today. In the shower. Just cause I love Amy, but I was like, motherfucker, like, fuck, what the? But my point is like, outrage feels good. It's a distraction. If you get on your phone and you get outraged about something and you have no stakes in it,
Right?
And you lob a cocktail at someone, and then they receive it and they reply, and then you giggle like, "Oh shit, they replied."
Yeah,
and it happened to you personally.
Yeah, yeah.
You were the first. You were the first kind of person I knew that was the recipient of outrage. I remember putting your name. I bet if I went into my Twitter search and like where you type into like search, I bet if I typed in A, it comes up Anthony Cumia because you were one of those.
Yeah,
Anna Kendrick. Oh fuck. So, but you were one of the first people that I watched it happen to.
yeah, yeah.
And obviously still a fan of the show, still listen to the show.
Yeah, it's
followed you on Twitter, followed that thread.
various accounts that have been removed, permanently suspended. That's I haven't been on Twitter. I have an account, but I just use it for to get like material for the show. So I follow a bunch of news sites and people that I know and other things, so I could get information. I don't really post because there's barely any followers on it. But and my Facebook, I also scrapped that, started a brand new one. I just follow my friends and family. And it's just been so much nicer. There's no reason to get so into it for hours and hours, arguing back and forth with people. It's obsessive. It really is. Social media is a horrible thing. It's terrible.
Well, so walk me through. I want to hear. I'm obsessed with. I talked to Corolla about this. I talked to Tom Green about this. I'm obsessed with the hero's story, meaning the guy who is at the mountaintop and then gets taken down and has to build his way back up.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm obsessed with it. And I think mostly because in a very, very small fashion, it happened to me. It happened to me. I was at Travel Channel, and I felt like I had the world. I was getting ready to go on Funny or Die tour, and then Travel Channel show, I get fired from Travel Channel, and all the tour dates get pulled from that. And I literally it was a morning that happened with me. And I felt like no one wanted me.
Yeah, yeah, that's terrible.
But
right?
I'm curious about all three of your firings.
Yeah,
because I want to know. I wish there was an analogy way to do this, almost like Girlfriends. Like your first one in Boston, because not to put words in your mouth, but like that seemed like it was a beneficial firing.
It worked out that way.
And I want you to walk me through each of them, and then the one with the St. Pat's Cathedral, and then you by yourself,
right?
So I'm curious of each of those firings, how you processed them, what they felt like, the morning that happened, and then the rebirth of each of them.
It was the Boston one was probably, well, I won't say the worst, but I had no previous experience at being fired. So we had said that the mayor of Boston was dead for an April Fool's prank. And the goof was that we were supposed to make it progressively more ridiculous as our show went on that day. So by the end of our show, you would know it wasn't true. You know, we were bringing in that he was with a young boy from Thailand, and it was a car accident, and hookers. It was just going to get really ridiculous.
Yeah.
That by the end, no one would think it was real. Well, the PD comes in and says, we got to stop this immediately, right away.
Program director.
Yeah. So we didn't want to. We wanted to keep it going. And they said, no, don't address it. Don't talk about it. I was like, well, now it's just hanging out there.
Yeah.
That he's dead. Well, we see at the crawl on the news up there, it says DJs say mayor's dead, and we go, oh boy, this is not good. And Opie knew because he had been in radio enough years. And
how long have you been in radio?
I had been in for 3 years, but we hadn't been in that much trouble yet. We'd been suspended for a couple of things that, the bosses went, hey, now don't do that. Meanwhile, they were like, this ratings are great. But this time they were like, well, they're going to have to look into this and see what happens. And you're off the air until they do an investigation. We're like, oh boy, this doesn't sound good. And they fired us. And I was horrified. It was, at that point, I was making $85,000 a year. This is coming from 3 years earlier in tin knocking, doing sheet metal work. I was making $27,000. And now I'm making $85,000 3 years later. To me, that was the most money in the world. It was amazing.
Yeah.
And I thought, oh, fuck, I'm back to knocking tin. I'm back to being a construction worker. I'll be in an attic saying, "Hey, you ever hear Opie and Anthony? That was me. Could you pass me this tin snips? I'm ready to fight." Just horrified. Then Bob Eatman, our agent, got in touch with us for the first time and said he'd like to represent us. He could get us a job. So we signed with him, and he got us an opportunity where we could have went to Atlanta or New York. And of course, we're like, fuck New York.
Was the money equal?
The money was, at that point, $145,000. So it was the greatest thing that had happened up to that point.
Yeah.
Us getting fired. First of all, we're making double the money, more than that. Secondly, we're in the #1 radio market now, and we're home, back on Long Island, driving into the city every day.
All your friends.
Yeah, now my friends could hear it. I'm on the Rock of New York, WNEW. It was fucking amazing. That only took a couple of months also. We got fired April, whatever it was, after April 1st. And I guess by September, we were on the air in New York.
So what's the first homecoming like for you when you get out there and your buddies are at a bar and they walk in, they're like, "Oh!"
Yeah, that was because I used to do radio in Boston, and I'd drive down for holidays and stuff here to New York, and everyone, even my family, they're like, "Are things okay? Are you doing good up there?
Yeah.
You still have something to fall back on?" Because they had no clue. We were doing great up there. I mean, the ratings were amazing. We were doing great, but until we were in New York, they still just thought they didn't know. You know, they had no idea that we were doing really well. So yeah, when we started broadcasting on WNEW, doing afternoons, people caught on. So going out to the bars and family events, it was a whole nother story. They were like, oh, look at don't talk in front of him. He'll put it on his show. Really? Will I? I used to, as a comic, you probably get that all the time. You want to see funny? You go down to where he works. This guy, he cracks everyone up. Does he? He'll put you in his act. Look out. Will I? Yeah, so that was huge coming to New York. My family they saw we were doing interviews in Penthouse magazine, and all this shit was coming out, and it was great. It was freaking amazing. We made it through that first contract, and then the second contract was giant, because Clear Channel was fighting with Infinity Broadcasting, CBS Radio, to get us. Clear Channel wanted to put us in mornings against Howard. Now, regardless if we would have won or not, Howard's fucking huge. I would never go in there with any delusions that we're going to kick Howard Stern's ass.
Yeah.
But we would take away enough listeners where he wouldn't be #1 anymore. And they needed a #1 Howard Stern for all that money they were getting in sales revenue. So they were like, whatever you got to do not let them go to Clear Channel to go against Howard. So we were in the perfect position. Clear Channel's offering boatloads of money. CBS has the first right to match. So they're matching all these huge offers that are coming in. Me and Opie are in a hotel room with Bob Eatman, the agent. Bob's on the phone with various representatives from these radio companies, and the numbers coming out of his mouth, me and Opie are just looking at each other going, what the fuck? It was millions. They're talking millions of dollars. All right, third year we have, and it's millions of dollars. And I'm like, what? This is fucking, I've been doing this maybe 5 years. I've been in radio. And now the money is just unfucking believable. So we signed a 3-year contract, multi-million-dollar contract. Each year it went up. So huge amounts of money. 1 year into that deal, we were doing the Sex for Sam contest, which was backed by Sam Adams. And
backed by Sam
Adams. Jim Cook used to be on the show all the time.
Shout out to Jim Cook.
Yeah.
He told me my ass wax video that I did on FX. Him and his wife, it was the first time they laughed and cried laughing together.
That's awesome.
Dude, shout out to Jim Cook.
Jim Cook was great.
He was fucking awesome.
With all kinds of gadgets. He'd have a backpack full of beer.
And just drink with you.
Yeah.
He had no problem drinking beer for beer with you.
And you never saw him get even tipsy.
Not even close.
He was the same guy no matter what he did. He was just mellow and drink his beer.
Sex for Sam.
And it was great. So it was Sex for Sam. The object. And we had done this contest. People don't realize this, a couple of years in a row. It wasn't the first time we were doing this.
Yeah.
So we'd have a list. We'd have couples that would audition throughout the course of a few months before we wanted to do this. And they had to have sex at famous landmarks around New York City that were on this list. So there were things like the Empire State Building, the Hard Rock Cafe, Times Square, just all kinds of locations that everybody knows. 30 Rock, things like that. So on the bottom of the list was church, just church. And I looked at Opie and I'm like, really? And he goes, we're just going to say it when we read the list off. It's going to outrage people. It's outrageous. That's what we do. And I'm like, all right, whatever. So he hands out the list. We have spotters who are various people from the show or comics. Paul Mercurio was the one that was out with this one couple. And so we're doing it like a sports broadcast, which we always did. All right, we're getting a call from Ben here. He's got the couple, and they're at FAO Schwartz. What's going on, Ben? So that's how we would do it. Paul calls up. He goes, we're here at St. Pat's, and he's doing the 2-point conversion. 2-point conversion was you get an extra 2 points if you're fucking her in the ass at the location. So he goes, we're here at St. Pat's, and I'm...
What a different world.
Oh, dude, it was regular radio.
Oh, my God.
Regular FM, FCC regulated radio. And yeah, could you imagine these days?
I cannot fucking wrap my head around it.
Totally different. We shoved cell phones up girls' pussies and called them to see if you could get a signal inside a girl's vagina. And it was regular radio. For 4th of July, we shot bottle rockets out of girls' vaginas and played like America the Beautiful behind it. It was hilarious. Again, regular FCC regulated radio. You couldn't get away with that on the moon right now.
You couldn't get away on a podcast. They
No.
pull you off everything.
You'd be done. So yeah, we were doing some fucked up shit. And me and Opie
Cell
both
phones
looked
were
at each
also a
other.
lot smaller then.
Yeah. Me and Opie looked at each other after Paul said that, and we both had dump buttons in front of us. Long delays. We had like fucking 35-second delays in front of us, one in the back room with a guy behind a locked door that had the button. And we looked at each other like, should we dump out of this? And it was like, it's just too good. It's too good. Neither of us hit that button. We could have hit that button and avoided everything.
What do you think would have happened in the
One
sliding door scenario?
button.
What do you think would have happened if you had hit that button? Do you think you'd be...
No, we would have gotten fired at some point.
Oh,
I'm sure.
No, but do you think in a weird way, do you think that moment helped solidify you in broadcast history?
Yeah, definitely. But it also, made us persona non grata in the business for a while. We sat out for 2 years. We got fired. It was it went out. There was outrage. The couple and Paul got arrested, and now people just started. The media. It started snowballing, where people thought like, "What? Opie and Anthony fucked in at St. Pat's," and it was it got way out of control. The Catholic League got involved, and they wanted us out of there, and the company knew it. CBS knew it, and they were like, Bob called us and said they've canceled the show. I go, fired us? We go, no, they canceled the show. You're still under contract with them for 2 years. So for 2 years, we had to sit out. We weren't allowed to work anywhere else, but we were getting paid millions of dollars for 2 years.
So what was that firing like? Was that like
That was scary because we knew they could ruin us for 2 years. You're making shitload of money. You think it's the greatest thing ever. And in that respect, it was. But as a radio entertainer, damn well, and there was no internet back then to speak of. So you disappear. You fucking disappear. You have to be in the public's eye or you're gone. And we knew 2 years a long fucking time to have people remember who you are.
Yeah.
So that was scary. That part got pretty goddamn scary. So
what was the XM contract like? So do you hear about Sirius? You hear about Sirius, you hear about XM, and you go, yo, Bob, can you get us on that?
He pretty much came to us with it. We didn't even think. We thought of satellite radio like radio jail.
Are you and Opie talking about like, what do you think about Omaha?
Yeah.
By the way, I got to stop what I just said because Todd and Tyler are my good friends, and they're in Omaha. But I didn't mean. I was thinking for a fucking. By the way, I'm so sorry. I love Todd and Tyler, but like, are you thinking like, what about like Tampa?
Yeah, we were
Cowhead.
thinking cowhead. We were thinking all that shit. Like what are we gonna do? But we were really damaged goods at that point. We were like, people had started caring about shock jocks doing wacky shit, and no one wanted to pick us up. We were too hot to handle on terrestrial radio at that point. So that's when satellite radio came calling. XM, after 2 years or a year and a half.
Who's the guy? Who was the guy at XM at the time?
What the hell was his name?
I want to hear. I want to say. I feel like I heard his name a million times.
Eric Logan.
Eric Logan.
Yeah.
Eric Logan, who later went
Elo.
to work with Elo, went to work with Oprah.
And by the way, surfs all the time now.
Yeah, now he's I guess the executive at Surf magazine.
Yeah, he left Oprah to go and do the
How the fuck
surf
do I
thing.
know this?
Isn't it crazy?
Dude, you know what it is? I got into a spiral of all your old interns. Steve from Yosemite,
Yes.
and he passed away, right?
Yeah. Pretty
I'm-
tragic. Committed suicide.
There's a guy who does videos about you guys, who posted one of the videos, and I got into a deep dive.
Yeah. You could. There's a lot there. There's a lot there.
So you and Oprah talking about our alternate.
Yeah, we
options.
were talking about anything.
If
because
anyone wants a drink, please take a drink. I'm so
No
sorry,
one-
but go ahead, keep going.
because no one wanted us.
Yeah.
But satellite was this new thing, and we were looking. We heard about it, so me and Oprah were hanging out one afternoon, and we're kind of looking at the street, the highway, Belt Parkway, right by my house in Brooklyn at the time, and we're going, let's see how many of these antennas we could see, because there used to be big shark fin antennas on your car.
I had it on my car.
Yeah, for a satellite.
You had to get it installed.
Yeah.
A wiring.
Oh,
and
yeah.
yeah.
It was a mess to get these things in the cars. So we wanted to see, we came from a giant FM audience on a major New York radio station. So it's pretty important to talk to a lot of people. And we saw...
Sorry, that's my my Hopsy.
Your tap?
It's a sponsor.
That's awesome. And so we're looking, and we go, oh, there's one.
Yeah.
There's another one. It was so depressing to think like we were going to be talking to no one. But it was the start of something. We had to start somewhere. Again, restart the O&A show. And we signed with XM. I think that was 2004, something like that. Was it
before then?
It was before. Wait, 2000.
I only say that. I take that back.
2002.
I had a white Yukon Denali.
I think it was 2004.
Georgia was born in 2004.
Yeah.
I was still featuring for Jay Moore. We had just done we'd done San Francisco when we were driving home.
Wow.
And he hadn't really gotten on to Sirius XM. And by the way, my memory is wrong. So if Jay disputes this, then go to his memory on this. But I had gotten Sirius XM. We were listening to the Comedy Channel, and he heard Dwight Slade for the first time and was laughing. And we were both laughing hysterically. I remember these guys flew past us at like 100 miles an hour, and I looked at him. I go, "What is it, Cannonball Run out here?" And he laughed hysterically.
Cannonball Run.
Dude, that was a fucking different time in my life. And
Yeah.
and that's when I introduced him to. I guess maybe that's when he introduced me to you guys, and then I introduced him to Ron and Fez.
Ron and Fez, yeah, Bennington. Yeah, it was. We hooked up with XM and started doing that show. And again, it was supposed to be, this is uncensored. It's going to be great, amazing,
Totally uncensored.
totally uncensored. And then we realized, oh, it's not.
Oh, it's not. It wasn't?
Okay. Well, we could say things. You could say all the curse words that were verboten on FM radio, but as far as content went, they really started pulling the reins on it, especially when it merged to Sirius XM. Then
That was a while, right?
it was a while. We got a few really good years at XM where we were doing some crazy shit. The wiffle ball bat challenge, where various girls would come in and we would challenge them to insert a wiffle ball bat inside them, and we'd mark it off how deep they could get it. And then at the end of the year, we'd give out a trophy to the girl that got the notch the closest to the middle of the bat.
It
was nuts.
It's a different. It's like it's almost like listening to your grandfather talk.
Right.
Oh, you have no idea.
You don't know what it was like, but it was insane like that. And yeah, now even satellite, digital, podcast, you can't do that. you will get in trouble somehow, some way.
Oh, yeah, well, definitely.
you were gone from society.
So if your first firing was like your first breaking your heart, where you're like, I'll never fall in love again.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm 17. What am I gonna do? I'm dirty goods. I guess I moved back in with my parents. And then your second firing was like, oh, we're still fuck buddies.
Yeah,
we're still fuck buddies, but I got to figure out my next move.
Right.
What was the one where it was just you?
Yeah, that was the worst one because it was just me. Every other time it was me and Opie getting fired, so we both, take that brand, that O&A brand, and just go somewhere else, and hopefully someone picks us up. We had at least that going for us. When it's just me getting fired, that was a problem. Again, I'm not trying to drag anybody into any Opie bashing because I wouldn't do that. But bottom line,
it bums me out. It bums me out. Let me be fair. Mm-hmm. It makes me giggle when I hear you guys go at each other.
Yeah.
Because it's almost like listening to your sisters fight. And but it bums me out when people when I watch the Pests revert to Jim and Opie. I was like, guys, and by the way, I didn't know what happened behind the scenes. I didn't know any of that. I just knew what all you guys were sharing.
Yeah.
And I know Jim and I know Opie, and it was it bummed me out because I was like, I'm just go support Ant also.
Yeah.
Go support. I just got your subscription also. And I was like, I'll listen to all of them now. Now I got one more thing to listen to.
Right.
But I know that it got contentious. I know all of that.
Yeah.
So I don't want to support any Opie bashing. But you were saying,
No, it was just at that point, I thought there would be support from the show, from Opie.
Did you think everyone was going to go? Party lines have been drawn, guys. You take us. Or we all leave.
Yeah, I thought that, and not because of me, not because hey, you owe me this as the brand itself. Just to continue that, I think it would have been easier for all involved to just continue the Opie and Anthony show somewhere instead of busting it up. But I think Opie had it at that point. I don't know why. Because I had to. We just weren't.
What was the thing?
We weren't banging on all cylinders at that point.
It was so uncomfortable being with you guys.
Yeah. It just wasn't what it was. I think there was a little resentment in there. Me and Jimmy were really kind of we would go off and just laugh till we cried about stuff. And Opie was pretty much pressing the buttons at that point. And I think when the fans would say how funny something was, and it was just me and Jimmy doing it, he kind of resented that. I think he wanted to steer the show what he's doing now into more of a, American kind of more of a wholesome thing than the O&A show. But that O&A stink doesn't wash off that easy.
I gotta be fair in that when I first did Opie show by himself, I had so much fun, and you realized that it was so funny interacting with each of you independently.
Right.
So I've done that now entirely, acted with each of you independently.
Yeah.
And I have to pay the compliment, but it's like working with virtuosos and seeing each of their talents. Opie was, there were times when you go, oh, this is so Opie. And you'd have fun with it, and you go, oh, this is what he does so good.
Yeah.
I remember one time we were talking about crying. I said, well, I'll cry if I watch The Time Traveler's Wife. And you just see Opie, he perks up. No, someone grab the ending. Someone put the ending. And in my head, I'm like, this is not going to be as funny as you think it's going to be. And it's going to be really weird to watch a grown man cry. And Sherrod turned his back to me, he wouldn't look at me. And then Opie was like, oh. But it was like, it's and then when we did your show last time, and then I watched you, you're so fucking quick. You are so fucking quick that you're literally... And by the way, I am quick as fuck. Yeah. I do this for a living.
Please,
and I'm literally... It's like watching one of those and one highlight tapes working with you. And Dave's quick as fuck.
Yeah. Dave's great, man.
And then when you work with Jimmy and you see him throw a joke, like you get on Jim and Sam, and you'll hear the setup being said, and you'll be doing the math in your head of going like, and Jimmy will just spit it out way quicker, and then look at you like you didn't even see that bounce pass. It really is.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, the three of us worked very well together, even if we weren't getting along.
You still did. I didn't know. I didn't know.
A lot of people didn't. So yeah, I don't know. I felt a little resentment there about the lack of support after the fire. But
I think all of us did. And I have to say that like as a fan, I think all of us did.
Yeah.
All of us were like, so where do they go now?
Yeah.
And then when we saw you go off, we went, okay, it seems a little natural. We're all doing our own things now.
Yeah.
He's already set up to do this. He's been doing it already.
Yep.
But I think all of us were like, ugh.
Yeah, I felt a little weird about it, and I was resentful of it for a while. In hindsight, I kind of do understand that, it's like the Gavin thing. It's just kind of impossible, even if you know who the person is, to hitch your wagon to somebody that is being perceived this way negatively. So
how frustrating is that?
It's
to be perceived some way.
It's the most frustrating thing ever. There's nothing you can do about it. There's no recourse. If you try to explain yourself, in everyone's eyes, you're just making excuses. They already know what you are. You're just trying to make excuses. And it's like the media loves grabbing things and twisting it. Now social media just grabs things, and it's complete dishonesty and misinformation. And I thought if you told me about social media back when I was a kid in the 70s, 80s, whatever, I would have thought, like anyone else, that it would be this miraculous thing that we can all communicate, and it'll bring people together and share ideas and ideologies and tech and everything. And it has just turned into this disaster of bullying and shitting on everybody who's doing something that you're not doing or can't do. Everyone sucks and is a piece of shit. And it's one of the worst things, I think, to happen to society. I really think social media, especially I came into it pretty late in life. Social media came on the scene. But a kid, like this has been their whole life. How the fuck do you deal with that? At least parents used to be able to see the scumbag come to the door and knock, and you go, who is that? Who's this piece of shit that is coming over to hang out with you? And now, they're being bullied, called degraded, whatever it is. It's horrible. I think the percentage of good to bad is literally 99.9% bad, 0.1% kitten and puppy videos, which is the only good thing to happen to the internet. It's the only thing I actually go, oh, that's good. Yeah. I send them to Missy. I'm like, look at this adorable one. And everything else is terrible.
Or propaganda, and that's where I fall
into. That's a good. That
I am
too.
a hardcore propaganda guy. Like I end up. Sometimes I go I'll stop myself from shooting because I'm very, very into Instagram, and it's an interest. It's like the way you took to. I'd watch you take to a medium and really kind of love it and have fun with it.
Right.
I'm into that. I'm still into that, and Instagram is one of those ones where it's like. Insta stories I dig, and I dig shooting videos and editing them and putting cool music in them and promoting tour dates or a tour.
People love it.
But the other day I looked at Twitter. I was laying. First thing I wake up, and it's probably 3 a.m, and I'm not going back to sleep. I grab my phone, and my brain goes, "There's nothing good inside there." It's just bad thoughts.
There's nothing good inside there.
It's just bad thoughts, man. You run the risk, you roll the dice of someone going, "Hey man, I loved your special," versus, "Hey man, you're a fat fuck, you're a piece of shit."
There you go.
And then I go, "It's gonna be fine." And I click on Twitter, and I just open the thing, and it just first thing is fucking horrible. And I go, "Why would you do this?" I was like, "Why would you do this?" And I just put my phone down, and I go, I wanted to write, "How do I block myself on Twitter?"
Yeah,
because I want to block me from Twitter.
That's it. That's exactly what I went through. I finally got blocked by Twitter permanently, and I'm happier about that as far as not being able to see so much of the shit. I still see some shit, but for the most part, I don't get to see it. I won't look at reviews. I won't look at it because I know the trolls just fucking love to shit on you. It's a shitty fucking environment
It'll happen.
wallow
It'll
in.
happen even on this video, because we didn't come out and absolutely condemn Gavin.
Of course.
People will just be like, these are alt-right fucking lunatics.
Yeah.
By the way, I voted for Hillary. I voted for Obama. I voted for this year I didn't vote because my wife voted for me. She was like, I don't trust you. I was like, are we voting? And she goes, no, honey, you already voted. I go, what? She goes, oh yeah, I got you a write-in ballot. I already sent it in. You're good. And so, but the joke I made at a dinner party was, I vote Democrat, I root Republican. And she was like, that's not funny. but yeah, it's like, even the comments here, and you can't control them. You can't control them.
No.
And you can't disable them, because once you disable them, they know you're reading them.
Right.
And you're
I
like,
know. You just
no.
got to leave them alone. Keith?
2 days ago, we went out, we had lunch. And
Oh my God, yeah.
So the scooters, we saw it on the South Park episode about the scooters all over.
All
and
these stupid
it was-
scooters around.
So it was hysterical. And I'm like, come on, get on the scooter. So Ant gets on the scooter, and I periscoped it. Everyone wants to see it. We're having a good time and everything. So we periscope it, and we periscope going. We went to Zen, the weed store, right? So I periscoped it, and we're in Zen. So while we're in the store, well, I didn't see it because I had to take a horrible shit and I had to run across to IHOP and go to the bathroom.
Yeah.
But I come back, I text my wife, and she's like, you better come back over here. People started calling Zen and saying there was a white supremacist in the store. And and one of the guys was a fan that was working there. And this poor black girl was taking these phone calls like, what?
Because what? There's nice people in here. Right?
What's going on? And
they look at Ange and go, "You're the white supremacist."
they thought I was the white supremacist.
Yeah.
It would be great. It would be great if you
fucking
could
trolls.
if you grab those trolls.
Yeah.
And just go, hey man, you're killing it, man. You're killing it. Your powers are being reused wrongly though.
Yeah.
Like, we need you to do this for pedophiles.
Right.
Like,
Do it for that.
Let's
Do
light
it.
up like registered sex offenders. Let's like because I think their intentions are honestly good. They're just misinformed.
No, some of these motherfuckers are just out to ruin people's lives.
Are they
like,
really?
Yes. There are some people out there who are out to destroy someone's life. They're, whether it's out of jealousy, their own miserable existence, it gives them an element of power. I think there's a subsection of O&A fans that are children of a divorce from O&A, and they're clamoring for attention from both of us by striking out. It's beyond reason what I see. I don't give a shit what you write. For the most part, I never see it anymore. I don't search it out. I'm off of social media. But when you start affecting my actual life and my family's lives, like my brother's gigs getting canceled because they call up a venue that he's playing at and say, oh, he's a Nazi. And, and even if the club owner, he's been told so many times, look, I know you're not, but I just can't take the chance
really
that people are
happens?
going to. So many times he's lost tens of thousands of dollars because people call up the venues and say bullshit to the club owners. Once you step out of the realm of the internet and calling me an asshole and a dick and unfunny, whatever it is, and then once you move on to real life, that's when I lose my fucking mind.
That really happens?
Oh yeah, I've found some of the people and done the exact same thing to them. I've sent texts and emails to places of employment saying that you got a guy, here's the things he's doing. He's bullying and targeted harassment. And I just put it out there, and then they go, whoa, this prick Anthony, look what he's doing. He's doxing people and this, that. Fuck you. I'll dox the shit out of it. I don't care if they're fucking with me. I'm not going to do it if you call me an asshole online. But like I said, the second you take it off of the internet and it becomes real life, I can't. What am I supposed to do? You're fucking with my family.
It's like I thought that was only the shit that happened to like Milo Yiannopoulos.
Oh, I know. Yeah. No, it happens.
And by the way, I thought that free speech was to the point where they're like, no, we'll let him speak, and they're going to protest. And
that's free speech.
see, man, I'm really bad at like I'm really bad. I'm the worst person to talk about anything political because I just don't. I read the headline,
right,
and then I go, I'm dyslexic, whatever. And so I don't know anything about like even the Gavin stuff that just went on. I kind of was like he disavowed the Proud Boys. I was like,
yeah,
whatever. And then I was like, cool. I think that I'm not a big fan of violence and I'm not a fan of confrontation. So like the whole Antifa Proud Boy thing, I'm like, I wish you guys would both fucking stop.
It's
like
just like cosplaying Comic-Con.
But it's so silly because
shields.
It sounds like they're identical human beings and that they just want to fight and they both are idealistic and they're both out of their fucking minds.
Yeah.
And I'm like, hey guys, can you take this somewhere else? Because I want to walk down the street. I don't want to walk into a riot. Like I'm so non-confrontational. I just want to be able to do my thing.
Yeah, yeah.
Have a few beers.
Wouldn't that be nice?
Dude,
it's so weird that we're living in some strange times where, just a difference of ideology is a reason to get violent and to literally try to remove someone from society, destroy reputations and whatever. And it's all like split up into two teams that just want to see the other team completely decimated when you don't realize, it's the same team. Same team.
Yeah.
I think we all pretty much want the same stuff in general. There's extremists on both sides that are batshit crazy. That, I see people on the right that are extremely intolerant. And I see people on the left that have gone loony in not allowing people free speech. Like that, and it used to be the other way around. The conservative Republicans were the ones that the PMRC, remember years ago, they wanted labels on the records and rap lyrics, and this is the devil's shit, and it's killing people. And now the liberals seem to be the ones that are like, oh, Ann Coulter's going to be at the college. She's going to speak. No, she's not. They shut her down. They're not going to allow her to speak. It's like, well, what are you scared of? Let her talk. But it seems like a lot of these liberal groups don't want conservatives to even speak. I don't like what's happening to language these days. Everything's getting twisted around. The bastardization of the language and taking something someone said, knowing what they said and meant, and then twisting it into something completely different. And then it just becomes the new truth. And again, there's no recourse. You can't do anything.
Yeah, I've dealt with that firsthand, and that really it bums you out because you're like, bro, you listen to the clip. You know what the fuck I said.
You know what I said. You know what I
exactly. You know exactly what I said. And you found a gotcha moment.
Yep.
And then you put it in slow motion so that all context was taken out of it.
Yeah.
It really bums you out. I've disassociated myself with it a tad bit. I've just said everything's. This sounds really crazy, but I go, everything's fake news.
Right.
Everyone can take it. I've spoken so much on podcasts. I've spoken so much. I have so much media out there, so much content that you can ruin me in a second.
Could cobble together something that would seem like
I've said 3 things in this podcast that I've already thought that'll be taken
already.
Out of context. Already.
Right. Yeah.
Because I know that there are fans of yours that hate my guts.
Yeah.
Hate my guts because maybe I wasn't vocal enough when in the split up, or maybe I didn't pick sides. I know that happened to Bill. I know that happened to everyone. No one picks sides quick enough, and part of me goes, dude, for so many fucking hours of my life, you gave me like fucking just joy, where I giggled hard as fuck, and then I was like, dude, you gotta stand by the people that you love and the people that you've been fans of, and all the shit that went around with you. I was like, the same thing is taken out of context. So I go, yeah, but I've been listening to the guy for fucking 10 years.
Yeah,
I know this guy.
Yeah.
I know I'm good friends with his best comedic foil, Patrice. I knew Patrice.
Yeah.
And Patrice did not hang out with racists.
No, we would,
And by the way, Patrice was racist.
Yeah. Patrice was hilarious, man. Like, yeah, as far as being racist,
like he was the best. He was the best. He would say things that were real to you.
Yeah.
And you just couldn't deny them. And you'd be like, I remember one time we were in Scotland. I know I've told you this, but me and Patrice were in Scotland, and I said, dude, we've been there a month together. Me, him, and Voss. I've been doing comedy a year and 6 months. And I go, I'm so glad that we became friends. He goes, bitch, I'm not your friend.
The motherfucker.
I go, excuse me? He goes, oh, don't get your feelings hurt. I don't want you to get feelings about, oh, come on. He goes, I'm not your friend. He goes, listen, man, if I fly into LAX next week, and I call you at the airport and I say I need you to run down and pick me up. Are you gonna pick me up? I was like, probably not. And he was like, then we're not friends.
Oh shit.
He goes, we're just two dudes who work together who like each other. That's it.
Wow.
And I was like, okay. I was like, all right.
Guess I got to be good with that.
And then I went to a Showtime taping, and I brought like 15 people, and I came up to him after the show, and I think Gary Goldman was on that show. Todd Glass was doing warm up, and I said to Patrice, he was like, we just hung out, and he just booked this, and he's like, what are you doing out here? And I said, we came out to see you. I brought everyone, and he was like, you did that for me? And I was like, of course. I go, Patrice, we're friends.
We're friends. Yeah. No, Patrice got it. You know, he understands that. It's so the word racist, sexist, homophobic, it gets thrown around too much. Yeah, there are those people out there, and it's terrible. But they're out there, and there's no way you're getting rid of 100% of them. But you don't have to make it seem like there's one around every corner. And any difference in opinion as far as sexuality or race goes or heritage or anything, it doesn't make that person this evil racist. And as a matter of fact, Gavin brought up something once. He goes, would you go into a bar and sit down and there's a black guy next to you, and someone goes, hey, look at the game up there. The Yankees are winning or something. No one ever turns around and goes, fuck you, and just starts blurting out racial epithets at the guy. Yeah. Everyone just goes, yeah, we're watching that. Like, there aren't so many of these horrible races that would just turn around and go, I'm not speaking to you because you're this or that or the other thing. There's like, we get along pretty well in this society.
I think here's my different of opinion in that. I think there's a lot more people that are racist than know they're racist. Like, I got into an argument with a lady the other night. Not lady, she's my age, but it makes it sound old.
This old lady.
She said, I'm not racist. We're at a dinner party at a friend's house, and I started giggling, and I'm a little high, and you know how you see things sideways, and I go, you don't get to pick that. She goes, what? And I go, you can't just say you're not. We decide if you're racist. I go, that's how it works. Like, we'll pick your behaviors and we'll watch them. At the end of the night, we'll behind your back go, oh, she's racist. And she was outraged because she's obviously a fucking card carrying hardcore liberal, far right liberal, far left liberal, and she got really exacerbated at the idea that she didn't get to define
that's
her
funny.
and I just went, no, that's how it is. That's how it works.
Yeah.
And but there is, I personally think there are more racist people than not. I think some people don't recognize it. I feel like me, I can only speak for myself, but as a comic, you try to watch so much shit on the inside that you're a little like, the way people get triggered as a comic, you get triggered in a comedic way where you're like, I don't think you know what you just said. But I think you're right. I don't think I always get blown away by these like Permit Patty videos. You know that? Mm-mm. It's pointless. It's the people that call the cops on black people.
Oh, right.
Like it's a big trend.
Yeah.
And I'm like, and then they get lit up online. Their lives get destroyed for being racist. I'm always like, we're only getting one side of the view. By the way, I never watched the videos, so I shouldn't be speaking about it at all. I just see the headline and then I just read the fucking comments.
Right.
And it's just destroying a fucking human.
Brutal.
And you go like, I'm always fascinated by that side. I feel like as a comic, you just sit back in the cut and just watch it and go like, ooh. Like, I think you have probably as many friends of color as I do, and they always say it's the most fucked up shit you ever heard.
Oh yeah. I don't care. Like, it doesn't bother me at all, especially in the context of comedy. Like the context of comedy, and I'm not saying that gives everyone a free pass to be a horrible
I've definitely seen guys cross the line in comedy.
Right.
Where we're like, easy, bro. I think you're missing the point, and I don't think you're meant to be a comic.
Like Michael Richards, let's say.
Dude, no. There was a guy. No, this is the best one. When I first started out, me and Dimitri were doing stand-up, and there was this guy that was hardcore Italian. He's from like Bensonhurst. And he goes, so I'm living in the city. And someone goes, Chelsea? And he goes, I ain't no faggot.
Oh, shit.
And everyone, whoa, and he goes, easy guys, I'm a comedian. And we were like, no, you can't just pass that off as a comedian.
That fixed it. That fixes everything.
Yeah.
But in the context of comedy, I think you have to allow a lot more latitude than you would a politician saying it or your doctor or something else. There is a parody, there is satire that transcends racism or sexism or anything like that. It's a joke. And some horrific topics can be made very funny, and that has to be allowed. Last night we were at the Comedy Store, and I'm really kind of seeing a pushback, and it's good. It's refreshing. Yeah. I mean, Rogan was there last night, and just
Rogan toes that line.
We saw his
so
special,
perfectly.
Which was hilarious.
Dude, his special's fucking amazing.
It's so good. And then last night, all new stuff that he's working out, and again, hilarious. And he can work that line where some other comics would be getting from the crowd, and they're laughing their balls off.
Well, I think it's part of like I mean, and maybe you didn't get the same leniency Joe gets, but it's part of the thing is that the majority, I mean, Joe's podcast is the biggest podcast in the world.
Yeah. And
we all know him so intimately.
Yeah. He
shares fucking 12 hours of content a week and shares his opinions on things. Joe Rogan is not racist. Way beyond not racist. He's not alt-right. He's not misogynist. He's a father. He's a passionate MMA fan. He's a comic. And not in that order. I'm just saying these are the things he is.
And he's a guy.
And he's an open-minded. But he's also a dude.
Yeah,
who's got a dick.
Right.
And like that's part of the thing.
Of course.
But I think so many of us have listened to so many hours of content that whenever he says something, we go, we know the guy. We know the guy. And I think some comics get that quicker. Like a guy like Jesselnick takes it and goes into a little bit of a character mode.
Yeah.
And you go, okay, we get it. But with a guy like Burr or Rogan or Ari or Joey or Tommy or any of my friends, at least I'll say, is that they put so much content out, you know the person. And I think when all that happened with you, I think there were some serious tones in what you said, but I think all of us were like, yeah, we know this guy. Like we've all been listening to this guy, and I think that was a little bit the frustrating part as a fan of the show for so long.
Yeah, that happens. And again, once that snowball rolls down that hill, poof, you can't stop it.
You can stop it. I feel like what you're doing right now is such great content. Like you and Dave are so good together, and I just had so much fucking fun on your show.
It was such a blast, and that is true. I think initially I was a little lost as far as what I was supposed to do alone.
Part of it was a lot of people wanted something out of you.
Right.
I think, and I think you personally were finding your feet about who you were as a host. That was the biggest thing I noticed was that like you had never been the host. You were the host
part.
You were like I don't drive the ship. I'm great with fucking pass me the ball, pass it right back, pass me the ball, shoot. I can dunk, I can do everything. But I don't dribble down, I don't take the ball out of bounds.
Right. Yeah.
That's not what I do.
I don't know what to do. I was that guy that when I was done, I was able to, grab my beverage or check my phone while someone else did the hosting thing.
Yeah, you were like 32 points, 32 assists. Right. Not too bad, right, guys? And everyone's like, no, that was fucking amazing.
That was it. So it took me a while to really find it. And what I wanted to do, initially, I was very political. It was a very political show. I tried to make it fun and funny, but I went too far that way. And with a co-host, especially bringing Artie on, for that 8 months, which was hilariously funny, but also somewhat tragic.
I tell you, I was texting with some friends, and I got like an alert on my phone. It's like verified people. Artie Lang just followed you, and I go, shut the fuck. Artie Lang just followed me, and I text my friends. Artie Lang just followed me, and they write back, he must be on drugs. And then I go on his thing, and it's clearly he's about to go to rehab. He's clearly either that or he's getting off drugs. It was a few weeks ago. It was like right when everything started to go down.
Right,
I was like, motherfucker, that's when he finds me. But you were saying I didn't hate to.
But no,
interrupt.
please,
Yeah.
it's a conversation.
Artie.
Yeah,
as
when
your
he
co-host.
came on board, even a little before that, but when he came on board, it was really like, now this is just going to be a fun show. Like, we're barely going to touch on anything serious.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much what we did. And then with Dave on board, we talk about Trump and politics and news of the day, but it's in no way this really hardcore opinion-based diatribe that I would go on early on. You know, I would sit there and really pound the table about politics. And while I really mean it, and I'm passionate about a lot of things that I see going on in the world, there's a place for it. There's a show for it. And my show just really isn't that place. It's more of a, let's have some fun. And that's what the show is now. I think a lot of people still have this idea that I'm still there, Democrats. But it's just not the case. There's a lot of fun thing. Like you said, when you were on, we didn't go into any.
I don't think we talked politics at all.
No, we barely touched any of the show prep. It was pretty much just let's goof and talk and converse like guys would. So that's more of the show I like doing and what we're doing now over there.
No, what's the future of Compound Media? Because I look at this business paradigm and I go, there's so much potential. Mm-hmm. There's so much potential for so many things. And I remember when O&A was blowing up with radio and with SiriusXM, and you guys were being brought so many projects. And I know that you have a brain for technology and for content first.
Yeah.
What do you think? Like, where do you see Compound Media going? And do you see like making your own? Like, I know Patreon's what some people do, but like making your own content behind a paywall where you're making funny video. Like what is it? I'm looking for the answer of what I'm going to do.
Yeah. It's weird because the model changes with time. Technology it goes out of style in a course of months in this day and age. Like the shit that we were using and doing 5 years ago, or almost 5 years ago when we started doing this whole thing, is completely out of whack. And even the model, how you distribute the show, has to be adjusted time and again. Obviously, behind a paywall, you're not getting as many people as you would if it was just out there. But the trade-off is, again, I don't have to depend on sponsors. We're looking for some kind of hybrid in there where we can get more people on board, maybe a two-tiered thing where you get some content and then premium content behind the paywall. Because it is changing, and there are a lot of choices out there, and you can never take for granted that people can find other things. So I think trying to find some kind of hybrid model between paywall and sponsor-based, maybe something like that. Also, as far as content goes, just more people that appreciate and are able to use a platform that is truly open. And, Aaron and Gino that do In Hot Water in the morning on our platform, they push it so fucking far to the edge that I sit there sometimes and go, oh, fuck, wow.
Yeah.
That's brutal. But I love it. I love it because that's what this is for. That's what this platform is for, to put everything out there, go balls out. So more shows like that want to do a show like that and appreciate that freedom that, isn't out there in a lot of places. There are a lot of too many bosses and too many board members and public shareholders. And I was talking about regular radio, how it got fucked from the time when we were in Boston at AAF. I knew the guy, Mr. Zappis, that owned the company. It was a guy, and he would come to the station and shake your hand, and that was the boss.
Yeah.
And then all these conglomerates bought up all these radio stations, made radio divisions from a company that had nothing to do with radio. So then before you know it, you say something, and a boss is yelling at you because what you said is going to affect diaper sales for Procter & Gamble because they're part of the same conglomerate. Yeah. And once that starts happening, you're done. You're not going to have freedom to do anything.
Yeah.
So I want that ultimate freedom to do and say whatever the fuck someone wants to, in context. I'm not talking about having a Third Reich Nuremberg speech on there. But to in the context, especially like I said, comedy, I want to be able to say whatever the fuck. And that's always going to be the future of compound media.
I think it's Adam. I remember Adam Carolla saying it. And I remember wanting it. He was like, "I've got my own pirate ship."
Yeah, that's what he says. Yep.
And I love it. I loved hearing that because I was like, I want my own pirate ship.
I want a pirate ship.
I want a pirate ship. Yeah,
pirate ship's cool.
I want to find my fans, and I want them to dig what I do, and I want them to. I always say, like, my fans aren't cunts. Like, they're just cool people who, like, even when you fuck up. I remember I've said some very fucked up things on this podcast, like regrettable fucked up things. I was like, leave them in. It's who I am.
Right.
I don't have any regrets. I am a person in progress. And I've had people reach out to me on Twitter, be like, yo, man, that was really fucked up what you said. And not even knowing that I said that it was fucked up. I was drunk or whatever. I text back and they're like, here's why I thought it was fucked up. And they tell me, and I go, that is pretty fucked up. And they're like, don't pull it down, man. I think it's part of the growth. It's one of the coolest things about, at least about my podcast, is that I think people, they grow with you and they appreciate the fact that you are doing it for free, that they are getting it for free, save for the fucking 30 minutes of ad reads I do. But it's one of the really cool things about what you do is that you got no boss. Like, there's no, like, it really is. Like, I get obviously some opinions and suggestions from Mr. Maresca over here, but they're all it's logical. There's a reason behind him asking me, hey, why don't you lay off of that or this or whatever. There's reasons for it. He'll go through a shitload of emails and see, we're getting some gripes about this, that, or the other thing. Yeah.
And I understand that. The thing is, and you brought up a great point about that, where people say, wow, you fucked up. It's an element of danger. It's dangerous, and it's supposed to be. You're flying by the seat of your pants. There's no net. I go out live every day. That's a live fucking broadcast.
Yeah.
I can't cut anything out in hindsight before we post it. Believe me, 80 trolls will screen cap and cap whatever the fuck I did and put it out there and say, wow, look at you, you're a piece of shit. But it's weird.
It's weird that they're part of your business model. That you're like,
yes, I don't get it either.
Like, hey guys, I appreciate the fucking monthly payment.
Thanks, thank you. This piece of shit really likes that you're on board. But it's that element of danger that I really like, and I think the people that are listening and watching should enjoy that too, and not be so quick to want to destroy you if you fuck up. Look, you said something, it was off color or it didn't come out right. That's pretty much what it is. And you have to appreciate when you're doing a live show like that too, that shit like that's going to happen. I'm not even going to sit here and try to say I'm not a perfect person. It's what it is. Yeah. So, mistakes will be made. But again, it's part of the fucking whole product. So I like it. I like when shit goes out there and you're like, oh, Christ, that was, people are going to get on that. To a point, unless the people are trying to use it to ruin you. Yeah,
I think I'll tell you, I've seen a few attempts at ruining character, and yours is probably one of the strongest ones I've seen. And this is before public shaming is what it is today.
Oh yeah.
It was almost
early
the very
on.
front, and to see where you are today, I go. It's one of the things I'm always respect, and I talked to Kroll about it, and I was like, when you got fired from your radio show, like, what was the first conversation you had with your wife? And he was like, the first thing I said was, what do you think our monthly nut is?
Yeah.
And it's just a really interesting journey for every person.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll let you guys get out of here. I have two questions. Very simple. Take your time if you need to answer them. Number one is, I'll tell you the two questions. You can pick which order you want to answer them.
Okay.
Number one is,
I'm intrigued.
Favorite moment. If you could go back in time and live that one show again with Opie and Anthony, whatever guests you had, where it was just an epic moment where you were in the zone, everyone's firing hot, you walk out of studio and you're still just vibing so much, you're like, I wasn't done. That's the first question. And then this is the second question. Answer them in any way you want. How much money, what market for you and Opie and Jim to get back together? How much money? How much money? How much money? And it's favored nations. How much money would it take for you, and what market? Mm-hmm. Okay.
Interesting. Well, the market would be New York. I mean, New York City. That's the place to be.
Could you do terrestrial, or would you want to be back on Sirius XM?
If it's just a throw out fantasy here, terrestrial, I think.
Okay.
Even though, I mean, they put so many limits on it.
Yeah.
But I think, me personally speaking, I think I've found a way. I do terrestrial radio shows all the time, as do you.
Yeah.
You know, you do this podcast, you could speak how you want to speak, and I do Bernie and Sid's show pretty much every Tuesday on WABC, and it's a whole different way of talking on terrestrial radio, and I like it. I do enjoy doing
It's fun.
it. Yeah. So terrestrial radio, New York City, money.
Put a number out.
Oddly enough, for me personally, it wouldn't take all that much.
For real.
Yeah,
For
yeah.
you,
If I'm
Opie and Jimmy
Yeah.
to work in the same room again.
Yeah.
Do the Opie and Anthony show, terrestrial radio in New York. Give me I want a legit number.
because it's not even about the money really, but if we're talking cash, like I would just, if I could still do compound media,
Yeah.
and have
Compound
that,
media is your own thing.
then I would just be like, give me a couple bucks just for transit. Like I wouldn't care about give me $1 million.
Okay.
I'll take $1 million.
$1 million.
That's a good round number. I'll take $1 million, and then we'll hang out and have fun. But I still obviously would do compound media and stuff. But like I have said, I'll do Opie's show on Westwood. I'll give him a plug. He's on Westwood 1. I would do his show.
Yeah.
If he wanted to do my show in a second. Come on, let's do it.
Oh, the biggest problem with Opie's show, and I'm saying this, I hope Opie hears this, is his booking process. Opie fucking texts you when you're in New York and you're fucking heading back out to JFK to fly to LA, and he goes, next time he's in New York, he said he'd do my show. I go, hit me up the day before I'm coming
maybe
to New
you
York.
should.
Get me, hit me up and I will definitely do your show. I would love to do your show.
Yeah.
I love all those guys, but it's like he's always like, oh yeah.
Oh, I missed you, dude.
God damn it.
I missed you, dude. No, that's he's kind of like me in that he probably needs somebody that does that.
He definitely could use somebody.
I've delegated a lot of responsibility with compound media, whereas it was me in my basement. I was running the soundboard. I was running the video clips. I was hosting the show. I was running everything.
Yeah.
And then it got to a point where it's like, no, I want a crew. You know, we got Garrett and John, who are just great behind the board, running the show.
Isn't E-Rock there now?
Is great. E-Rock is there now, and he's been really valuable as far as relations with radio stations and getting me out there. And he's just he's another one of those good energy people to have on there, like Garrett and John, and the shows are really fun. And
what are all the shows on Compound Media?
We got an In Hot Water. Morning with Bill Schultz and Joanne Nosachinski. They were on Fox News. I pretty much pillaged all of Red Eye. I took everyone from Fox Red Eye with Gutfeld's Red Eye. And we got Michael Malice does a show at 11 o'clock p.m. Who else we got?
Kevin Brennan.
Brennan's fucking Burning Bridges with Kevin Brennan.
Kevin Brennan.
I walk
one of the
in,
most fascinating human beings.
I walk into the studio because he's on before me, and I sit down to eat my lunch. The door is shut to the studio, and I hear like, and I get like anxiety, like my dad is yelling at my mom again. It sounds, he's got the same tone, and it's that yelling. He is so angry. And I laughed my ass off. Like, I'm like, what is he mad at? What is he so mad at? Because then you listen what he's yelling at, and it's really nothing important.
Dude, he was the first person I met in stand-up comedy.
Really?
The very first person I met, and he was a very different human being then.
Was he?
He was just wouldn't speak to you and just walk away.
Oh,
I'm
my
sure he was
God.
internally the same guy. And then when he started melting down, as just a fan of the medium, you tune in and you're like. And he said one of my favorite lines I've ever heard is he came back on Opie and Jim and he goes, they go, you got in a lot of trouble that last appearance. He's like, yeah, my wife found out I cheated on her. And they were like, yeah, how'd that happen? He goes, I said it in the last 5 minutes of the show. Who listens to the last 5 minutes? She said, you hooked up with that girl. And he goes, you listen to the last 5 minutes? That was his. And as a comic, I'm like, you listen to the last 5 minutes? That makes so much sense. If I say in the first 20, I get it.
Right.
You heard it. That's
Right.
where I put all the shit that I don't want a secret. But in the last fucking 5 minutes, that killed
that's
me so
hilarious,
fucking
man.
hard. Yeah. To watch him just go. And you know what's interesting is that, in all fairness, we've talked about when people go fucking ham on you on the online, and he's done that to his brother. And at first, and it's first because I love Neil, Neil, and I love Kevin. At first, it just made me giggle, and then after a while, I remember I bring it up to Neil, and Neil was like, "Yeah, I don't find it funny."
It's not funny.
Yeah, and I was like, "Oh yeah." In my head, I was like, "Why wouldn't he find it funny?" Then when it happens to you, you're like, "Oh yeah, that's not funny when it happens to you."
I couldn't I can't imagine it's real. Like when
Dude, I
Kevin
thought it
goes
was- I
off,
thought
I'm
it was a
like,
work.
it's got to be a work. And then you're like, no, this is real. Like Kevin is that guy.
And part of me feels like I can't speculate. But man, Kevin Brennan is a fascinating. I had him on my podcast.
So he's hilariously funny. Like I've done his show a couple of times and I've seen his stand up.
Yeah.
He is a funny motherfucker. And the anger that is in him is second to none. He's been banned. Like he gets banned from the Cellar in New York, and just he's not really a people person. he's nice to you.
I got a call from Chad Zumach one time, and he's like, "Yo, Kevin's talking shit about you on his show," and I was like, "Huh?" And he goes, "He's talking shit about you. Call in." So I just call in, and they go, "We have a caller," and I go, "What's up, Kevin? It's Bert." And he goes, "Who the fuck told him I was talking behind his back?"
Yeah.
He goes, "I'm talking behind your back. Like, what the fuck? You can't call in." And I go, "What were you saying?" And he goes, "I don't know. He's just a fucking horseshit act." He goes, "You're a horseshit act who takes his shirt off." He goes, "The fucking mob story's not real. I'm telling you that right now." And I'm like, all right.
Wow.
Like but that's Kevin.
Yeah,
And it's also the part of the game, I believe, in this business. I'm not talking about like, I can't really speak. I can't speak for Gavin per se, or for like pun. I don't even know what the fuck they do. But like for me and you and comics and like our business, as part of it, you got to let it roll off your back and go, dude, if I make you laugh, come to my shows. If I don't make you laugh, don't come to my shows. If you support Kevin, go to his shows. By the way, Kevin and I are friends. And when he said that, I wanted to defend the story, but the other part of me was like, I know there are people that believe what he's saying.
Right.
So fuck it.
What are you going to do?
Yeah, what are you going to do? What am I going to really fucking sit there and go point by point through that story and try to defend it? I'm just going to let Kevin have his fun. And we fucked around on air and we laughed. And then I hung up and I had him on my podcast like a week later.
Yeah.
And so part of it's the part of the weird part is it's fake media. People hear that and then go, they take it for real. Oh, shut the fuck up.
He hates him. This is a problem. Every time I've heard from a third party, oh, so-and-so is shitting on you. And you're like, instant reaction is, I'm going to get on the air and just fucking lambast this motherfucker. And then you actually listen to what was said, and it's nothing.
Yeah.
It's nothing. And you go, wow, I was really going to light that motherfucker up.
Oh.
And and start a problem. People
Start a legit problem.
Yeah, start a real problem. People just love throwing that in there. Get that fire going.
I ignore everything.
Good.
My hardest. Try my hardest. And then I hired a team to block people. So anyway, I hired a team that I was like, hey, there's a few buzzwords I don't like, and if you see them in my fucking thing, just delete the guy.
Right. Block that shit.
I was like, I don't need that shit in my life. I don't need because my kids read this shit.
It's toxic. I consider it like I call it static. It's like I want to look at something. I'm not going to look through static.
Yeah.
I'm going to clear the static. I'm going to fine tune it. And that all has to go. And it's so negative to just your psychology. There have been days where I was just miserable because of reading something. And it's like, why should my whole fucking day be ruined because some asshole wrote something, you know?
Okay,
so,
by the way,
I just don't want to read it.
I remember a friend of mine, and I definitely won't say his name because he would not like this, but he goes, dude, I know the biggest fucking Twitter war today. And it has ruined my day. I mean, at one point, I was like near crying, and and this guy's fucking destroying me, and I'm destroying him. He was 13 years old. I said, really? I go, how do you know that? And he goes, his mom read my tweets and said, why would you text that to my child, my son? And I was fighting with a child. And I was like, are you serious? He was like, I was fighting with a fucking child, and he had me crying, almost crying in my fucking car.
It's either Matarisa or DeRosa.
Oh no, Ari loves that shit. Ari's Teflon. You can't fuck with him because he just doesn't care. He really, he really doesn't care. Did you see what he tweets things that are like inviting it?
Yeah. He's looking for people.
It's guys like me who people go. I think sometimes they go, oh, he's phony or what? I don't know what people think about me. I really don't. I just hope it's good. But but then they post shit and you're just like, oh fucking. All right, we'll get you out of here. What?
Oh,
right. Favorite memory.
That was.
And then I'm gonna tell you mine. Let me start. I'm gonna tell you top 5.
Okay. All right.
Patrice's death, number 1.
That was huge.
Yeah.
That was one of the biggest laughs when the line came out of we're gonna need a giant coffin in a purple suit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can I tell you the exact line I was gonna say?
Yeah.
I can tell you where I was. I was driving back from Tempe, and it was on replay, and I was like, I remember I had to get gas.
Yeah.
And I never would do this again. And I pulled up in my car, and I left the car on and the radio blaring so I could keep listening. And I was on E. I had run that to fumes. And I'm listening, fucking car's still on, filling it up with gas, thinking I might explode.
Yeah,
but this is worth it.
Yeah, that was one of those shows. All the comics came in, and we're just, remembering Patrice. It was kind of a weird, somber show.
Very weird.
Yeah. There were a couple of those that were kind of. 9/11 was another one that was.
I didn't listen.
It was a tough one. I've never listened back to it because I know there was so much stuff that we didn't know at the time, and I hate listening to going like, there are 10 more planes crashing all over the, and speculation and things like that. But that was a sad fucking show. But the first laugh we got after 9/11, which was probably, I don't know, a week or so later, because the week after that was all about terrorism and fucking the towers and dead people. It was terrible. And then we got a tape of some guy doing tribute songs. We got a bunch of people doing tribute songs to the towers, and it was so bad. Everyone sucked. The rhyming, it was all so contrived. Freedom, and we need to get the bombs into... And that made us laugh. We would stop the tape and come up with our own line that rhymed with something, and me and Jimmy just crying at that. So that, I remember that as being a great moment too, because we had gotten over that hump of not being able to laugh.
Yeah.
So that was a big one. God, which other ones?
October was always fun as fuck. And by the way, those were my friends. A lot of time, those were my friends, like my legit friends.
Well, Jimmy wound up having to go on a lot of those shows when he's touring.
Yeah, and I remember, and that's where I met Sam. That's where I fell in love with Sam.
Oh yeah,
because Sam would do the intro reads for Jocktober,
right?
And he was so good at that smarmy,
sarcastic, right? turning the screws.
Gil and Sean in Minnesota.
Yeah, they are. They have a peppy little morning show that we're going to rip apart.
Dude, those were great.
Yeah.
The hardest I ever laughed on your show ever. The hardest I ever laughed ever. And I've always heard this doing radio. I pulled my car over. I'm not. I can tell you. By the way, I can tell you where I was.
Oh my God.
I pulled my car over 2 blocks west of Detroit Street on the corner of 6th.
Jesus.
I pulled my car over. Patrice and Louis, the etymology of the word.
Oh, yes.
The N word and the K word.
Dude.
And by the way, I have to preface is that I don't think it was a different time.
Yeah.
But it was a different show. But if it was it was 2 friends.
Yeah.
And so like it wouldn't do us justice. And I don't mind saying the N word if it's in context.
Yeah.
Or the K word if it's in context. But we're pulling it so far out of context.
Yeah.
That I wouldn't want it, and I would never do it justice.
Uh-huh.
But you have to hear that because
look it up online because it is hilarious. It's shocking because it comes out of left field.
So far out of left field.
Yeah.
It's the brilliance of Louis C.K.
Yeah.
The fucking sheer brilliance of Louis.
Louis was one of our just best guests. He was a favorite because we never knew where the show was going when he was on. One of my favorite times with Louis was the Donald Rumsfeld call. He's pitching a book.
Oh
He's the
God.
former Secretary of Defense, Rummy. He was known to just be a hard ass. So you'd see Rumsfeld on there, Al Qaeda. He's a real old curmudgeon, and Louis would not stop calling him a lizard person. He's like, you're a lizard person, right? You're a lizard person. And I had to keep jumping and going, Mr. Rumsfeld, I'm sorry. This is Louis C.K. He's a comic. Don't mind what he's saying. Now, during the Gulf War, and I'm trying to go, and he goes, so I see a video right here of you blinking and you have lizard eyes. You have, sir, are you or are you not a lizard person? And he just wouldn't stop, and I'm trying to keep him on the line. I'm trying to, because I'm waiting for him to just slam the phone down and call in a fucking airstrike on the studio. But it was hilarious. Like that's Louis.
Louis, there was a time I think you guys had Louis Gervais and Ronnie B in studio.
Yeah, I was out that day.
Were you out?
Yeah. We just talked about that with Jay. I think Jay was in also, and Jay was just talking about not being able to get a word in, and no one was laughing, and
Jay
he was
was
pissed.
not enjoying that because I think I was friends with Jay at the time, and he was not enjoying it. And then he, I think, called in the next day to slam them.
Yes, to Bennington. He just told me this yesterday during during the show. He was pissed. He's like, everything's cool now. He goes, but I'm sitting there, and Louis editing one of his shows, and Gervais is just laughing at everything that Louis and Bennington say, and I'm just a piece of shit sitting there, and no one's laughing. They're on their phones. They're doing everything. I'm dancing as fast as I can, and I'm getting nothing. So he was really pissed, and he started doing the Gervais impression. He's so funny. He was pissed though. Yeah,
he was legit pissed.
Yeah.
You can hear it when you watch it, when you listen to that interview.
Yes,
and I've reheard that. It's so funny. One time I was watching I was listening to the Patrice the day he died podcast or episode. Fucking what am I talking in podcast language? And I started watching a porn and I was jerking off, but I was still listening to the replay.
Oh shit!
And I'm terrified that video that someone grabbed my little camera and recorded me jerking off. Not because I had the porn on mute because I'm just seeing that.
So all they would
see is me jerking off to Patrice's death.
Patrice's fucking death stories. Oh my God.
Oh. So wait, what? So what? If you could go in a time machine, what would be the day that you'd like to relive one more time? Would it be those early days where you're drinking beers at 6 p.m.? Would it be the first few days of Sirius XM or XM where you guys are stretching your legs at 4 hours and really seeing what kind of fun you have? Would it be those days when you did the radio and then did the walkover and had those fucking wind out nights, like going yard at last hour? Or would it be that time, and I think right after that, right after you guys got stopped doing that show, that's when Louis and all them and Ricky Gervais and everyone started showing up, and it was almost like a hotbed.
Yeah. Oddly enough, and NEW, the entire time we spent at NEW was just debaucherous. It was amazing. I mean, the amount of nudity, naked girls coming in. We had beers in coolers that were supposed to be there for Snapple, and it was just beer companies would bring pallets up.
Didn't you have Jägermeister?
The Jägermeister machine, the frozen Jäger machine.
Admit I'm a fucking fan.
Oh, yeah. Please.
Admit I'm a
dude.
Say what the fuck you want to say about Bert Kreischer. I am a fucking fan. I remember talking to someone one time, and the guy goes, "So wait, you're a legit fan?" I go, "What? I like fanning out on shit.
Yeah,
I like liking shit. There's nothing wrong with liking shit."
Yeah. We have foosball tables, pinball machines. Like,
I've drawn that room out in my head.
Oh, dude.
I've drawn that room. I know where the cooler is in the corner.
Yeah,
like,
in the
because
corner.
I've listened to you guys talk about it
so
much, and I'm like, oh, I would have loved that. Showing cold beers at 6.
Yeah, just fucking cold beers. And we would have those Razor rollerboard scooters to take to our office and back up the hall. It was like a frat house. And just whatever we wanted to do, right up until Sex in the Church. But before that, no holds barred. It was great. Even with all that, if I had that opportunity to go back to any time, oddly enough, it would be the first few months of WAAF in Boston, where I knew nothing about this business. It was the most exciting time of my life. It was petrifying and amazing. I still remember the smells of the studio and those 90s grunge songs that we had to play, 10 songs an hour, and then we dropped down to 8, and we'd talk a little more, and we started getting a name for ourselves. And it was the time where me and Opie were really friends. We were legitimately friends at that point.
And you're making friends with a human.
Yeah.
Like, you're becoming friends with. That's
cool.
Cool.
It was an amazing build. Those 3 years that we were there went from I'm a tin knocker who somehow is thrown into this business doing radio to the end where I was like, I got this. Now I know what I'm doing it. But all that build up, the having to do my own production on commercials, like after work at 7 p.m., I went into the production studio with reel-to-reels and a donut, they would call it, with the tagline of Newbury Comics or some of those Boston places, and I would have to voice it. Or, tonight on Fox 25. I loved that shit. And listening on the radio, I would hear myself do, because I couldn't listen to myself because I was on the radio, but I would hear my commercials and me voicing commercials as I was driving and be like, oh, fuck, I'm on the radio. That's fucking awesome. The appearances we do. We're going to be at Club Cadillac this Wednesday. Come down, meet Opie and Anthony. And like, we weren't anybody at that point, but we had some fans come down and they'd drink with us and hang out. And those were like, it was the most innocent of the Opie and Anthony years. But it was also like, it was so new to me and so exciting to be part of it that's like the part that stands out the most as the most enjoyable part of my career. Yeah.
Dude. Obviously, I love you. You've brought me so much joy. I appreciate you doing my podcast,
dude. Please,
I appreciate you having me on your podcast. To continued success.
Thank you, man, and thanks for having me. This is great.
Good luck with the book. I can't wait to go down and read it now. I've read that. I heard Mark Maron was interviewing fucking Busy Phillips, and I guess she wrote a book. And I was listening to that podcast on my ride to Santa Ynez this weekend, and I was like, this Thanksgiving weekend, and I had your book, and I'm like, perfect. We're up in wine country. I just got glasses. I'm like, I'm gonna read his book, and I just got glasses, and so I was like so excited, and I'd already read the first like 40 pages.
Yeah.
And he was like, yeah, I don't read books because then once you read someone's book, I found as an interview, you lead them into questions.
It's interesting. Yeah, that's a good point.
And I was like, oh, then I'm not gonna read his. I was like, fuck, because if I read your book, then I'll be like, oh, I don't have any questions.
Right.
Like I don't all the stuff I don't know. I'll now know.
We went to we just came up from San Juan Capistrano where
just west, right?
It's south of south of here, just southwest.
Oh, it's southwest of LA.
I think. Well, yeah, a little bit. It's kind of closer to the beach.
It's near San Diego?
No, it's between L.A. and San Diego. It's
yeah.
near Dana Point, Laguna Beach.
Okay, yeah,
kind of around that area. Yeah, so we were there because that's a lot of the parts of my childhood in the book are based in California, in San Juan Capistrano. My dad was out there, me and my dad and his fucking goofy friends and horses. We were really like equestrian. We had a ranch type thing going on.
Yeah.
And, the story I told about Dreamweaver, who was one of the girls I met on the CB radio, which was social media of the 70s, and where I met her, where the two rivers came together. We went there, and Missy took some video of me talking about that, and Gay Richard's treehouse, the tree, the eucalyptus tree. We got some video of that. The Swallows Inn, my saddle from when I was a kid is in that bar in Capistrano still from like 1975, and it's still up on a rafter in there. So we got a little history of things that are in the book on video that we're going to be posting.
That's awesome.
In a couple of days. Yeah, where I talk about some of the locations. Buzz, where Buzz took my virginity. I have the apartment that we were actually there. We were standing in front of it at the door. I go, that's the window to my room where it all happened. And now it's just amazing. It's a little run down now, I'd say. A little shady over there.
Is your dad still alive?
No, he died back in 96, I guess. Yeah. 95, 96.
The only dad story I remember was Opie's dad had heart problems, and he every time I eat chicken wings, I think of Opie's dad because he goes, he goes, buddy, they're protein.
Yeah. That's
it's chicken. Yeah, come on, it's chicken.
Oh, my dad was quite the character.
What? Where can everyone get the book? What's the info?
Oh
in the
my
book?
goodness! BarnesandNoble.com, Amazon.com, and CompoundMedia.com, which we have autographed copies you could buy there. I've been signing books at my house, just kind of
fucking
doing
so
that.
Annoying.
It's like a lot of books, but we got a good system. And then I was putting like Merry Christmas, and I throw 100 in there, and then just shut it and put it in the box. So people that order the book don't even know. Some people will get $100.
I did that at Barnes and Noble. I'd go through and put $100 in a book.
That's great, right?
And just go to Barnes and Noble and do a live video. Yo, there's $100. I'm here in Connecticut. Go find my book.
Find my book. Yeah.
It turns out they don't buy it. They just go through the goddamn books.
Take out the 100. Well, they won't even know. Like they'll buy it, autographed, open it up, and if you see my name and Merry Christmas, turn the page and there'll be a.
I gave my daughter's books, and I was like, draw pictures in them.
Draw pictures, yeah.
Dude, I got so creative with trying to sell my book, and I never made the bestseller list. It was a fucking I'll never write another book in the rest of my life.
I'll never put on a life jacket again. Yeah.
Yeah, it's I can't wait to read the rest of it.
Thanks, man.
I can't wait.
And again, thanks for having me in here. I don't make it out to California enough
at all.
Oh, look, Keith is telling me Compound 20, right? If you go to compoundmedia.com and put Compound 20 in, you get 20% off a subscription. So do that. All the information is at compoundmedia.com. Everything you need is right there.
Yeah.
All the shows, all the book sales, merch, all that happy horse shit that you do when you have a podcast.
Dude, thank you for doing this, man.
Thank you, man.
I appreciate it.
Oh, itchy balls. Balls itch. Anthony Cumia on the Adam Carolla podcast. See what that's about.
Dreaming of some white privilege. With every dumpster he would dive. His early days weren't merry or bright. When digging ditches on
Permanently Suspended is the name of the book. It is available as we speak. As I've told you, and I think we have some similarities in our background. Like we both worked a little construction.
Yeah. I used to crap in a spackle bucket a lot on the job sites. There was no bathroom or anything, so you'd grab the spackle bucket. And that was one of the things on the job site. You knew never to open a sealed spackle bucket that you weren't absolutely positive had spackle in it because,
Yeah, I had. There was a lot of fecal-related humor
yes.
back in the day. was trying to explain to someone about someone taking the shit bucket and putting it next to my table saw and dropping bolts off the roof into it. And it's a long story, but remind me. So, Anthony, first off, obviously of Opie and Anthony fame, and we were a little bit ships in the night because I remember back in the day Jimmy always being a big fan of radio, and he said, "Oh, I love Opie and Anthony," and I was like, I've never heard Opie and Anthony because it was the East Coast, West Coast before the internet. Kind of everyone would listen to whatever, whenever, and he'd go, "Oh, I love doing their show," and somehow by the time I came around, it never lined up. I never was able to do it.
I think we shared an agent at one point. The late Bob Eatman.
Yes, the late Bob Eatman. Yes.
Yeah. We shared an agent for a time, and we would always kind of, our careers were going up at the same time, pretty much. Although you were in there early on with Dr. Drew and stuff, but we kind of never really clicked or connected together.
How's the relationship with Opie now?
Not very good. It's 20. You do 20 years.
Come on in, Opie.
Oh, Opie's here. We do 20 years with somebody. You do 20 years. You're going to annoy each other, I think.
Well, at that hour.
Yeah. Mornings are a little
It's
rough.
kind of a weird thing. It is an interesting thing, which is at 5 a.m, everyone's on your last nerve. Like, it's crazy. Like, you'll walk in and the USA Today will be, like, on the doorstep and they go, who the fuck would point it that direction?
Yep.
That's insane. What
exactly
kind of fucking madman does it? I knew it. Look at
hate
it.
it here.
Flipped over. And it's weird. Like, everything is, like, on your last nerve because you're, like, agitated and it's early. Dr. Drew and I always got along great because our job started at 10 at night.
Perfect.
And only lasted 2 hours. So, like, I'd roll in there sort of like I took a nap. I was working on the Man Show. Sometimes I had a couple glasses of wine in me if I went out to dinner or something. Like, how you doing, buddy? Doing good. Hey, I got this thing on my ball sack. Can you check it out during the commercial?
With pleasure.
Like, but mornings are very intense.
Mornings are crazy. And Opie was the kind of guy that, like, everything got on his nerves. I'm such a easy, happy to be there kind of guy. I 4 hours a day talking with your friends on the radio. I've done real work. That ain't it. It's easy. So to have him like pissed in the room, you just walk in and go, oh, what? He's pissed today. It's going to be a thing. And I would just go through it because I knew it was the best gig ever. But as time went on, he would just get more and more annoying, and I annoyed him. I understand. I'm a party guy. I like going out. I like hanging out and getting into a little bit of trouble and whatnot. But he just couldn't take any of that. Didn't like it. And like you said, at 5 a.m, it's a problem. Me and Jimmy really started hitting it off. And
Norton.
Yeah, the show just pretty much turned into Anthony and Jimmy with Opie running the board. And he resented that, and it got a little hard to work with.
It's like a band, but again, if the Eagles, every gig they played started at 5:45 in the morning, they'd be killing, they'd be stabbing each other. Like,
that is true.
But so they
already hit each other.
Yeah.
It's intense, and I get it. Like, I don't think there's such a thing as a morning team that did not have its ups and downs, but you also have this crazy history together as well, and your names are always be connected.
Always.
So, what do you do about
He
that?
hates that, I think he's trying to steer off into a direction of a cleaner, more family type Opie with what he's doing, and he's just has to hate that he's just anchored to me, who is constantly, getting permanently suspended off of social media and in trouble. And so he can't really shake that. And our past with the church thing and getting fired for sex at St. Pat's Cathedral and all that stuff was, he wants to shed that and be family-friendly Opie. But it ain't going to happen. It just can't happen. You got to kind of just accept who and what you are and move along.
Well, let's ask him. Come on in, Opie.
Where is he? Bring him in.
I had a conversation I've shared with you before, but years ago, because Jimmy Kimmel was always like a student of radio. Mm-hmm. His like sort of background is radio, and his history is radio. I think that's kind of in a weird way where sort of first love is radio, and so we talked about radio like Gruden talks about quarterback prospects. We break it down, game film, get the dry erase board
Draft
out.
day.
You want to talk about a guy who really gets potentiometers. Boom!
Yeah, like he would. And so he would talk about Opie and Anthony and being on the East Coast and all that. And then when I heard you guys got fired for the first time.
For the first time.
And I remember like going, because I love radio too, but I'm a Corolla first. I was like, how long do they have on their contracts? Like 2.5 years. What are they doing? They're going home. Are they getting paid? They're getting paid in full. And I remember like saying to Jimmy, oh my God, it's the greatest day ever. It's the greatest day ever. And Jimmy's going, are you kidding me? Those guys are fucked. They're miserable. And I said, no, are you kidding? No way. And he's like, no. We were having this argument over, like I was making the pathetic argument. Like, are you kidding? I'd love someone to pay me to go home. Jimmy, give me $10 right now. I'll leave.
I'll go.
I'll go. I'll blow you and then I'll leave. Just give me $10. And he was explaining, this is horrible. They don't want this to happen. It's screwing up their career. And I was like, they're going home for 2.5 years and getting paid.
It was the most lucrative contract we ever signed, too. So we were making boatloads of cash, and we were off for 2 years. In that sense, where everyone else would go, oh, my God, that's the greatest thing. But in radio, especially back then, there wasn't any social media. You're gone. You disappear from the face of the earth for 2 years, and that could destroy you in the entertainment business.
That void gets closed.
And radio, yes, people will fill that void. But with the money coming in and nothing to do, I was building radio control helicopters and going to Atlantis for a month on vacation to just play blackjack and hang out and have fun. So it was fun, but you're worried that when that runs out, where are you going to go? And thank God that Radio Jail satellite radio was available. Radio Prison.
Yeah, you guys, it was 2 years.
2 years
out.
out.
Multi-million-dollar contract.
Yeah.
You guys were told to go home and not work. It's one of those things that I've been there in that I've been sent home for 10 months and been paid.
Yeah.
You can't explain to average human beings why there's some anxiety attached to it because you can't take guys who work in coal mines or drive forklifts and explain to them you're going to get several $100,000 a month. Now go home.
Yeah.
Never show your face at this Home Depot
Refinery.
again.
You take that in a second.
Oh my God.
Don't you try to get work in another refinery?
But it was crazy. And then I have. So we had Bob Eatman, who passed recently, was my agent, and he was Drew's agent and Opie and Anthony's agent.
Yeah.
He was I guess Kevin Bean's agent. He
Yeah,
was
yeah, really a radio guy agent. Yeah.
radio, very soft-spoken guy, very sweet guy. I did fire him.
Oh no!
Well, he had it coming, but it was just like an insane story that I've told you guys before. But and then there was also famously him, meaning Opie, coming to visit me at Loveline with Bob Eatman, and then his portrayal of that visit.
Yeah, completely different.
On the air, which I think we've played you before, but I think Max Zapata has it. And I'll tell you that this half of the show brought to you by MedMen.com. Let them know I sent you. Brickhouse Nutrition at BrickHouseAdam.com. Enter Adam and BetOnline.ag. Enter Podcast 1. So this is him on Opie and Anthony's show, I guess, returning back from the West Coast.
Yeah.
And it made me realize I think he's an angry guy.
Yes.
Because